Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today at this extremely special event. I am emotional about it. We're going to be celebrating my favorite subjects, this new space era. We're going to be celebrating the overview effect. I am MaryLiz Bender, your co-host. I am with Cosmic Perspective. You just listened to one of my songs and saw some of our own work. And I want to introduce my co-host. Robin Seemangal from Supercluster. Robin, I am so stoked that we're doing this together.
Hey, Mary Liz, and hello, everyone. My video is turning on slowly. I am in the nation's capital where the internet is not excellent, but I'm really happy to be joining everyone today. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, and thank you for everyone who's coming to this event. It's going to be wonderful.
Yes, and so I said that we're going to be celebrating the overview effect. The reason why this is so important to me is that when I discovered the profound transformation that takes place when astronauts go to space and they see our planet from that perspective, it changed my life. I dug into the research and I found the one and only Frank White, who I'd like to introduce very quickly here. Frank White is the author of the Overview Effect. He wrote the book in 1987. His work has inspired me so greatly. Frank, it is such an honor to have you here today.
Hey,
Hello.
Frank.
Hey, Robin. Hey, Mary Liz, and welcome everybody. We're going to have a great time today. I am so grateful to see all of you here to talk about such an important subject to us, at least, and I hope it is to you, the overview effect. And we're going to dig into it and really, hopefully, have some new insights into this new era of space exploration. So welcome and enjoy.
Absolutely, Frank. And as we speak, there are 10 people in space. I think it's important that we remark that at this moment. Over the last few months, there's been extraordinary progress made across the commercial industry and the publicly funded industry in getting folks to and from space, whether that's right at the edge of the Kármán line to the space station, around the world for a couple of days. We are making huge, huge progress. There's 3 people aboard the emerging Chinese space station, and there are 7 people aboard the International Space Station. And in the last 3 months, I'd like to remark that an actor, a director, 3 billionaires, an aerospace executive, your neighbor, a physician's assistant, a geologist and science communicator, a local man's brother, Jeff's brother, and the youngest and oldest person ever launched to space in the last few months. And I think that is one of the major reasons we are having this event. And we are spotlighting the overview effect because it's such an incredible philosophy that has endured to this new generation. I also want to call out, we've had a hard week in our space community. Supercluster photographer Jenny Hopman was in a pretty bad car accident last week on her way to cover the Lucy launch. She's stable. Her family is by her side. We are by her side. And we're hoping that Jenny can be back on her feet as soon as possible. We want to thank the space community, especially for raising $60,000 for Jenny in just a matter of one day. And a special thanks to everyone in our community for sharing that, whether NASA Spaceflight, Tim Dodd, who's here, all the folks who shared that GoFundMe, the local reporters, thank you all from the bottom of our hearts. Jenny is communicating with us and she can't wait to get back to work. So we're praying for Jenny and we're praying for her family. We'd like to quickly read a statement that Jenny's family, her parents, Suzanne, John, and her sister, Julia, wrote for the space community on their behalf. And I'll read it. The last week has been the hardest of our lives. Knowing what Jenny went through and the long road she has ahead is heartbreaking for us. However, amidst all this fear, anger, and sadness, there's been a glimmer of light coming from the community that rallies behind her. The support she has not only has given her strength, but is keeping her family strong. We can't put into words how much your well wishes, prayers, and support has meant to us. We are forever grateful. Jenny's greatest passion is space photography. And we have no doubt that she will one day return to the Space Coast to continue to pursue this career. Thank you for all your love and support, the Hotman family. And Jenny will be watching this live stream. So Jenny, welcome back when you're finally watching this. And we all love you.
We love you so much. Thank you for doing that, Robin. I really appreciate it. So, I just introduced Frank, but we let him kind of take a break for a minute because he's going to come back at the end of this stream, and he's going to do not only a bit of a speech about his new findings with the overview effect. He's been researching this for well over 30 years, interviewing astronauts all along and learning so much about it. So he's going to share his personal point of view on that, and then he's going to do a Q&A. So I hope you'll stick around till the very end. Without further ado, though, I want to answer the question for those of you who aren't so familiar with the overview effect. What is the overview effect? What does that actually mean? And I feel so fortunate. I feel like, Robin, you and I have the most amazing friends.
Honestly, we get to talk about the overview effect a lot in the industry because of this new era of spaceflight. But there are some folks who have really, nailed what it truly means and all the things that encapsulates. And one of those people is Jason Silva.
That's right. Jason is an Emmy-nominated and world-renowned TV personality. You may recognize him. He was the host of Brain Games, but he also has his own YouTube channel and amazing videos on his Shots of Awe series. I'm looking in the audience here just to be sure, because he was going to try to join us live. He couldn't be here, I don't think, at this time, but he did supply a stunning video just for us, just for this event. And I am really, really honored to go ahead and share that with you. He does such a fantastic job of putting language to philosophy. Thank you.
What's up, guys? I'm Jason Silva, and I'm so excited to be celebrating the overview effect. Now, the overview effect is an emotional experience. It's a response that astronauts often have when they behold the Earth from space. Something about that shift in perspective becomes what Ross Anderson has described as an ontological awakening, a forceful reckoning with what is. For a moment, finally, we see everything. Carl Sagan's pale blue dot. And the experience serves to awaken in astronauts a new sensibility and appreciation for our interconnectedness, like the South African saying that says Ubuntu, I am because you are. What seems to happen is that when we actually are in orbit and actually are beholding this blue marble, we finally realize somatically in the body that we are all connected. And so the question becomes, how do we scale this emotional experience, this psychological experience of the overview effect to other people, those especially that are not in orbit? How do we democratize access to this realization that we are all interconnected? Well, there's a host of ways: virtual reality, technologies, psychedelic psychotherapy, anything that annihilates boundaries and makes us realize that we are all one. But it all starts with the overview effect. And thank you to Mr. Frank White for articulating this ineffable feeling that awakened this compassion and this empathy and this appreciation for the sacredness of the world in so many astronauts. And so it's a pleasure to communicate to you just how much the concept of the overview effect speaks to my soul, speaks to the human soul, and is a glimpse, I think, and is a way station, and it points the way to the future of human consciousness. For as Edward O. Wilson wrote, we have Paleolithic brains, medieval laws, and godlike technology. So we need to upgrade our minds, upgrade our consciousness, upgrade our brains to meet the challenges of the 21st century. And I think the overview effect certainly points the way. So thank you very much. I'm Jason Silva. Wish you a beautiful day.
Thank you, Jason. I love the way that he talks about how it points the way, right? That's the power of language.
Jason is so well said on
Mm.
philosophies like the overview effect, and I really love that explanation. It really speaks to me. And the overview effect is about wonder, and that's where it
Mhm.
starts. And I love that Jason's message encapsulates that.
Mhm.
We have more amazing guests coming up. MaryLiz, who are we bringing in next?
Oh my goodness, what a treat. Nicole Scott, the one and only. Nicole is a veteran NASA astronaut with 2 space flights and 104 days living and working in space. She is an artist. She is the most generous, beautiful human. Nicole, I'm not kidding. I every time, we get the pleasure of having you as a guest at one of these events, I'm really astounded by how much you work to communicate about your experience. You're so giving. I just really appreciate you. So, welcome.
I'm calling
Thank you for
Nicole a
joining.
philosopher now.
How are you?
I'm
Absolutely.
saying that Nicole is a philosopher now to my friends. I want to really quick. Nicole has a book out this
Ah,
week. Congrats, Nicole.
oh,
Back to Earth. Nicole, you're one of our favorite people. You're someone that we love to talk about the Earth with. The Earth, how amazing it is, how we need it. That's number one.
Yeah.
And yeah, the overview effect is something that you've also talked about throughout your career, and it weaves its way into your art, your writing, your speaking. What does it mean for you?
Wow. I like listen to Jason, but I think it's funny, like these two words, overview effect, and whenever I hear those two words, of course the two names Frank White pop immediately into my head, and I am so thankful that this kind of event is taking place with Frank front and center. And
You wrote a foreword
I
to one of
did.
the editions, and we're going to ask you to read it because it's so incredible.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, and I think I hope I say some of the words about what I think it is in this forward. But honestly, when Frank asked me to write this, I really thought of it more like a thank you letter to him, because I'll tell you, I think astronauts go into space. We have this experience. Very thankful for that as well. And when I got back to Earth, I didn't know the two overview effect words. And my husband is the one who introduced me to Frank, his philosophy, this just wonderfully perfect way of communicating the experience that we've had, that a lot of us, I think, struggle with too. But all right, so I'll read. It's only 2 pages, so it won't take long. But
Okay,
so
we're here for it.
I'll read it, and it's the forward to the fourth, the latest edition. Thank you, Frank, for inviting me to do that. So all right, so here we go. Let's see if I can read out loud, right? Okay. I was honored when Frank asked me to write the foreword for this latest edition of the Overview Effect. Thankful is another word that comes to mind whenever I think about Frank and his work. The opportunity to fly in space and to experience our home planet from that very special vantage point is a blessing. It was through my introduction to Frank and his research that I was finally able to deeply consider what I had experienced and the best way to communicate it. I'm thankful that he is continuing to expand on the philosophy of the overview effect by collecting more astronaut stories of their experiences, but more importantly, to consider the way these experiences can be put into action for the greater good of humanity and our shared future here on Earth. Frank and I first met after I wrote a blog post back in 2011 in response to my friend Ron Guerin, I'm sure a lot of you know Ronnie as well, and his crew preparing to return home from their space station mission. I had returned from my own space station flight several months before, and I thought of how I had watched over those months with my feet planted firmly on the ground as my friends passed above me on the ISS, a shiny point of light crossing the night sky. It occurred to me that this idea of the overview effect, which I had at the time only recently become aware of, might just work both ways. Not only for those looking in amazement, appreciation, and awe at our planet from orbit or the moon, but also for those of us looking up to the sky at the wonders orbiting above us, and in consideration of our place in the universe. It seems that both perspectives remind us of the fragile nature of where we live. Earth with its thin blue atmosphere and the ISS with its thin metal hull, and how both protect the life on board from the deadly vacuum of space. Both remind us that that wherever humanity chooses to reside, we are obligated to care for that place, our home, at the most basic level to ensure our own survival. It became clear to me that the heart of the overview effect is the concept of home. The opportunity to see Earth from orbit puts the reality of who and where we are in total perspective. It shows us that we are all in space. And in all of the complexity of spaceflight, what I brought back to Earth with me are three simple, yet I would argue profound lessons. We live on a planet. We are all Earthlings, and the only border that matters is the thin blue line of atmosphere that blankets and protects us all. These are truths that we all learn at a young age, yet we rarely consider their significance in our daily lives. There's not a day that goes by now, though, where these truths aren't with me and part of all my decisions. I think all astronauts, in one way or another, are working every day to share the importance of these truths with as many people as possible. I believe that this perspective has the power to raise everyone's awareness of our role as crewmates here on Spaceship Earth, holds the key to the peaceful and successful cooperation for all of humanity, and to a future where all life on Earth not only survives, but thrives. For me, these three truths are at the core of Frank's overview effect philosophy, and the perspective shared through this philosophy is a path forward for humanity. While it is based on the shared experiences that astronauts have had through the windows of their spaceships of the most special place in the universe, our home planet Earth, experiencing the Earth as a unified whole is more than an idea for astronauts. It is a powerful reality. It is a message from the universe not to space flyers alone, but to all of humanity. I hope everyone will read the overview effect and will personally reflect on the significance of who and where we are in space together, and will then take their own personal action to use that reality for the greater good of humanity and our shared future here on Earth, and wherever else we might find a home together in the solar system and beyond.
Ah, man,
Beautiful.
you nailed it. Nailed it.
Frank.
Hey, can you hold that book up?
I
get the
can.
feeling.
I can.
Let's all hold
Yeah.
each other's books
Yeah.
up. MaryLiz and I don't have a book
Yeah.
yet, but we will. We promise at some point.
It's
Wonderful.
huge.
It is.
Yes.
I mean, it is quite the collection, and I love that Frank just keeps expanding on it, really. And I love when, when like I had that opportunity, I knew what was going on with me. I was trying to communicate it and to have, just what Frank had put together years before in a really just thoughtful, interesting way when you read the book too, was just so compelling for me. And so like, wow, okay, that's it.
You said this to me once, and I love the way you said this. You said that Frank gave us, the astronauts, the language to explain what we experienced up there. I think that's really profound.
Yeah, I think it's so true. And, I am so looking forward to the day when Frank is orbiting this planet and and experiencing what he's described so beautifully, in person. But isn't it wonderful that here's this thoughtful, humble human who has not traveled to space, but has looked at the awe and wonder around him, experienced it in a way, and thought about it in a way, kind of, I'm sure in his mind, like separated himself and thought about it in a way that brings it so perfectly to light for the rest of us. And it's just total proof that you don't, I want everybody who wants to go to space to go to space. Don't get me wrong. I think, yes, please. I think everybody is probably raising their hands, and I'm with you.
And Nicole, you want to go back to space?
I would love to go back to space.
Okay. Just so that's on.
Yeah. Ask me when I'm 95. The answer is yes, but I think that, and Jason said it too. The way Jason was able to convey what he was sharing with us as well. It's just proof. You don't have to. We should know this already, right? And we should be looking around every day at the awe and wonder that surrounds us, and opening our hearts and minds to it in a way that, that lifts us up, that lets us look back and understand this interconnectivity, this interdependence in, just at the core of who we are.
Do you have a message for future? Obviously, everyone is joining this list of spacefarers across all professions. It seems like that's opening up. What message do you have to future spacefarers about looking out for this experience, letting yourself have it, making sure that it happens. What advice would you give to a future spacefarer looking to have that kind of experience?
Yeah, well, I think you said it, Robin. I mean, I think you have to go in, I think you have to go into it with, I don't know, I think about it, it's like, I had really high expectations of what the experience is going to be like after talking to colleagues, after looking at all the beautiful pictures and videos. And I think nothing can keep you from having an experience where your arm can't reach up high enough, and you realize, wow, it might have been my expectation was here, and it's really, what I experienced is here. As we're watching people fly now, and I see, Loretta's name on the list, and I would not expect otherwise. And I know that the whole community of people that Loretta has been, alongside as we prepare for more people, for example, to fly on Virgin Galactic, right? And just this hope in my soul that, if you're going on a suborbital flight for, a short number of minutes, don't do the flippy doos. Don't do it. I'm sorry. I don't know if that's a technical term
you
or
could
what.
do a little flippy do. Come on, Nicole.
Do a flippy do or something.
Thank you.
Loosen your strap and experience that you are floating up and everything. But your face needs to be in that window. Your heart, your mind needs to be like centered in that window, that view.
Do it like William Shatner.
Totally.
Do it like exactly the way he did it.
Yep. Follow the Shatner. And, but, and it seems a little silly. It's like, wow, you go to 0G. Why would you not want to be floating? And if you've got an extended period of time to float around and flip, I mean, I highly recommend that as well. But this is something that needs to get in you. Right. Both flights I took, the first thing you want to do, you want to float out of your seat, but it's because you want to get to the window. And and this is experience that I think needs to be part of that. And, you talk about future spacefarers. Imagine the ones, maybe somebody in this group that's on the phone that is going to be the people that first go to Mars, right? And you finally, you finally get to that. Where's that line in space where Earth doesn't look like Earth anymore? Right. Earth is now this dot of light, and I think that's going to be another case of, okay, how in that environment do we recreate this view of Earth out our window, this connection we want to maintain, this.
They'll be the first humans to not be able to see the Earth.
Yeah.
That's kind of mind blowing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. When you think of it, everything's been in Earth orbit that we've done so far as, as the humans. And even when we look at, like Cassini and these, the rovers on Mars and everything, we're so excited about what we're learning about these new places, right? But the thing that like tops it is that dot of light below the rings of Saturn. It's like, oh my gosh, that's us. You want to establish that relationship. And I think that's, I don't know, I kind of look forward to maybe you guys will have the Star Trek holodeck on board that ship or something. MaryLiz, your gloves, music.
I will have a telescope to look back at Earth.
There you go.
The biggest waste of payload money ever.
But it'll have to be, you might be able to do it on your iPad. I don't know.
Just a giant telescope.
But it's like, it's all about the humanity, the human and human spaceflight, right? That's going to have to stay there. And I think that's what that expression that we're trying to, share of what we're seeing of Earth through the window it's because it's about humanity and we have this connection to it. So, yeah.
Nicole, you're so amazing and so eloquent, and I really appreciate it. Now, you're an artist, and right now we're going to transition into a next panel about the intersection of art and storytelling in space. So thank you so much. I think this is just like the perfect segue.
Yeah.
Thank you for all the beautiful art you share
Thank
and all you
Nicole.
do to make this planet better after having that transformative experience in space. Nicole,
Thank you. And you know what? I'm going to leave you with one other, our mission statement for the Space for Art Foundation, because I think in what you're about to do, I think it fits beautifully across every bit of this conversation today. And I think about it when I read Frank's works too, is that we are uniting a planetary community of children through the awe and wonder of space exploration and the healing power of art. And what do we want for our planet as crew, right? We want to be happy, healthy on a planet that's paradise, that we absolutely can create for ourselves, that can be as beautiful as it looks from space, right? And so I'm so thankful that you're pulling the art right into this conversation. And thanks for including me. I'm always happy when you guys call.
Oh, thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, Nicole.
All right, I hope enjoy the rest of the event. I hope you stick around.
I'm hanging here. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right. I am so excited to introduce this design panel. This was really the idea of Robin and the Supercluster team, but what a cool thing. I don't think we've ever had a space design panel in any of these events that I've been to.
Yeah, same. And I think that the commercial era, yes, we're seeing new rockets, we're seeing new spaceships, we're seeing new people enter space, but we're also seeing the normalization of space. And normalization means speaking to the public, speaking to people beyond our circles, beyond our community. And breaking through that barrier means good creative. It means good presentation, clean creative, great design, and reaching people who don't typically have an interest in space. And design is a perfect door into that. I think these three folks are leaders right now in the industry, and really speaking that language and leading that creative charge for the entire industry. MaryLiz, I'll let you introduce them.
Yes, and so these are just the most, this is the team. This is the team. I can't believe they're all together. I don't know what we're going to do. So my dear friend, Hilary Coe, is a lead designer, storyteller of human-based technology and spaceflight. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I think she's responsible for, she and our next guest, responsible for, I would say, our favorite moments in recent spaceflight history. Hilary, welcome to the event.
Hey, Hilary.
Quite an intro. Hi, guys. How are you?
We are so good. And Kyle Schember, I'm in your home. You're right behind the store. Hello, Kyle. Kyle is the co-founder of goingtospace.com, of Subtractive, and my favorite music group, Test Shot Starfish.
What's up?
I have so many great memories of going down the causeway, starting to set up my cameras, preparing to capture a rocket launch, and hearing the thump, thump, thump come in. And I'm like, oh, test shots on, countdown's on. Hello, Kyle. It's so nice to have you.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. Good to see you, Hilary and Robin.
Hey, Kyle.
Excited about this panel.
Thanks for being here.
And Jamie, maybe Robin, it's better for you to introduce your coworker, Jamie.
Jamie Carreiro. Hello. Jamie is the co-founder and the chief creative officer of Supercluster. He led the effort to build the Astronaut database, and all of our films and everything we do, we all have a hand in, but Jamie leads a lot of our efforts on the creative side and filmmaking side. Jamie is my creative partner. What's up, Jamie?
Hey, I'm super happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
How are you in space already? That's not fair.
Yeah, I took one of the old Buran shuttles out of the trash.
Is there graffiti
and
on it?
Up here, and I got my downlink going. But no, it's great to meet everybody and happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have all of you here. And I think the way we're going to open up this panel is we love each of you, starting with Hilary. Tell us about what you do in our industry, in our community, and tell us why you want to go to space, because I know all three of you want to go to space.
Okay, so I'm starting there. Okay.
Yes.
Well, so I'm Hilary Coe, former design director of SpaceX. Now I work for a company, AKQA, where I get to have 72 creatives at my disposal to continue the experience design initiatives that we started at SpaceX and apply those across the board to private space companies, to NASA, ESA. So it's kind of, I've become this ninja that now lurks in the shadows, but with the same kind of purpose of, bringing space to everyone, creating that accessibility to space. That's really been my new initiative, because I think, I can never speak as eloquently as Jason Silva or Nicole, who's obviously been there and experienced it. But I think it's just so important right now with, how we're seeing access to space become less expensive. You know, Robin, you had mentioned at the beginning of this, you know, we're seeing scientists, we're seeing content creators, we're seeing all kinds of people have this access, right? Even if it's part of a competition, doesn't matter. And so I think with that, it provides this new level of accessibility for all different kinds of experiments, all different kinds of storytelling. I mean, this really is the crux and the moment we get to tell that human story, and to do it through the experience of space. So as someone who has worked with multidisciplinary teams, be it product design for Dragon and Starship, be it communications, the webcast, which me and Kyle, you know, work on for SpaceX, you know, it's all about providing that access. I think it's also about engaging and inspiring others to start their own startups. This is where we really get to define what the future of this industry is going to be and how we experience it in space. So that's my spiel.
Amazing. Kyle?
Sticking to it.
Yeah. Well, I think we definitely travel in the lane of the art side and visuals and music. And, you know, a lot of the intention that we set for Test Shot Starfish, which we started in 1999, actually, we sort of laid it down for a little while.
Wow.
And we found our tribe, I guess, you know, once we connected with the space community. And, you know, we set the intention with music for space to sort of inspire production people, designers, engineers. You know, it's like something to listen to while you're working. You know, it's like just sort of put you in a headspace, and that's where we started. And we get a lot of feedback. It's really interesting when you put intention into a music, whether it's however it's released into the world, and then you get that feedback. They're like, oh, I love listening to this while I code. You know, I love when people say that. Like, that's like my favorite thing that anyone could say about the music, because that's our way of communicating and just sort of taking you to somewhat of a flow state, or a place where you can concentrate to do your best work, you know, and that's where we are. And same thing with the visuals. You know, we've connected in with so many different people and collaborated, which we've collaborated with MaryLiz, which no one's heard yet. It's going to be coming out. And, you know, and we continue to collaborate. We did a collaboration with Tim Dodd, Everyday Astronaut, and then that ended up almost being like a theme song for, you know, called Moon. But you know, the connection between the visual language and audio language, you know, however you can apply that into this community, which, you know, if you're going to be on an 8-month mission to Mars, like, you're going to have a lot of things to listen to, and some of that curated, and obviously some of it your own choice, but, you know, for different moments and different feelings, and, you know, being calm and maybe moments of stress or any of the things, it's all applicable, you know, and that's really what we love about this. And yes, I think both Ryan and I would go. So we're looking forward to that future Starship mission as well.
There you
That
go.
is
Seed
awesome.
planted.
Thank you, Kyle. And Jamie?
Yeah, you know, I think that both Hillary and Kyle made some good points about how you have to kind of look at this as a new audience, even if you're going to draw in some people that are already there. One of the big things that led us to build Supercluster was essentially trying to rebrand all of that story. Everything from the way the rocket launches are broadcast, to the way science is communicated, to the way we, you know, talk about schedules and astronauts and all those kinds of things. As fans, we found that it deserved a higher class of storytelling, and the type of production that was going into telling stories about all kinds of other things, even like a nightly news package about a tax plan or a foreign war or something, would have better content and better graphics and better music than space content. And so that's something that really motivated us. But I guess since we don't have a ton of time here, one thing I really wanted to talk about is clarity and simplicity, and the idea that there has always seemed to be this separation between, like, okay, here's the stuff the public can be told about, and here's the stuff that's too complicated. We're going to, oh, it has math and science and all this kind of stuff, but we want to break down that barrier. And when you look at things from the level of understanding you need to understand a story, that's very different than the understanding you need to build a rocket. And so we just go for the storytelling level of communication. And once you focus on that, there's no scientific principle or chemistry or physics or math that can't be explained to someone. In the same way that in a movie, there's enough exposition for you to understand that they're going through the black hole, or they have to get more fuel, or whatever it is, you can tell a story that way. And so we just try and talk to people where they are, but also not talk down to them or ever be afraid of trying to tell them things that they might not know and understand. And then just generally elevating the entire look and feel, which I think you guys already, are totally on board with. But this idea that you can make it look better, you can apply better design, launch posters can look like movie posters, launch broadcasts can be like international soccer broadcasts with people yelling and screaming, and we can bring the energy that's in our hearts to the public if we just tell the story in the right way.
That's all so beautifully put. And I want to, sorry to wrap up so quickly. This is such a fast moving event, but I think this is a really important last question that I would love for all of you to speak to, which is the why of what you're doing. So, Jason Silva and Nicole and Frank, we all talked about how philosophy and the kind of poetry that they're using gives language to this thing that's so hard to communicate. It's an experience, right? And so I would just like to know from you all, is that kind of what you're doing? Is what you're trying to communicate through art, which is some kind of experience? I'd like for you to put that into your own terms, the why of your designs.
Yeah, what's the source of both your excitement for space and your creative drive? What is that source for all three of you, starting with Hillary?
Me again first.
You put a plane in the background. You're getting called on first.
It's not my fault. This is where I live now. Smells so bad here, guys. I'm so glad you can't smell it. Sorry. Anyway, I digress. Jason Silva put it brilliantly. And like I said, I'm never going to be able to put anything as eloquently as that man. But, it's like we have these Paleolithic brains, and we come from a place where we are guided by awe, and it's so much deeper than capitalism and bureaucracy and all of this stuff. Like, I feel like space travel and the human spaceflight initiative transcends all of that, right? It transcends any of this like social construct or anything that we've put upon ourselves and are stuck in right now. It feels like whenever you talk about space or try to create in space, it kind of clears the way of any of that BS, and you're left with this pure dreamscape. And it just feels like, in my 4 years now, after working at Google and Apple and all these tech companies, but going into space, it's like living in this consistent lucid dream of, I get to create whatever I want. And this can become part of that human. It's like when we listen to Joseph Campbell about that, like that human consciousness, it's the deeper level that goes beyond, it gets into symbolism, it gets into mythology. And I think that's what we're creating right now, is that mythology of the 21st century. And I don't see a better, bigger, more open platform for us as storytellers and artists and as human beings than this stage of human spaceflight. So I would say, if that hopes to start to answer that question, that's why we're in it. And this is also why I love Supercluster. Like, the things you guys are doing, or even Kyle, what you guys are doing with your websites and with Starfish, like this is where we're all coming together. I can't tell you how many times working at SpaceX, looking at what Supercluster's doing, and just going, oh shit, that's an incredible way to go about user experience design for this or that. It's the same with Cosmic Perspective, MaryLiz, you and Ryan. I mean, the first time I saw those like slow motion shots with, like, I think it was, Carl Sagan in the background, but it was just this looming like
Ray Bradbury.
Days.
Oh, we need to shout out Ryan Chilinsky, who should be sitting amongst this group right now,
totally.
but is busy running the YouTube and everything. Ryan, shout out, a gifted, incredible filmmaker in our community. So we do want to call out Ryan real quick there. Thank you.
But this is, we inspire each other. Like, you think that all of us, all of these companies, all these agencies work in a vacuum. Like, this is why we're here, and we're inspired by each other. And you best believe that I was using that video, MaryLiz and Ryan, as reference for, like, this is how we should be approaching from a storytelling perspective, the beauty of spaceflight. And I think that's what's so powerful about this community, is that we help each other. Not any single one of us has the answer, but when we come together and we bridge our efforts, I think this is where we get to create that mythology, and that's what's so beautiful.
Thank you. I love the way you put that we are creating the new mythology of this.
Yeah, it
of
is
this
the
exciting
macro.
space age.
The macro story. Like, I agree with that completely to tie it to mythology. If you look at what are human beings doing right now, if we really zoom out and we go forward in history and we want to describe right now, we were leaving Earth. That's what this moment is about. And as you pointed out, Hillary, all these other details are at work, but really, as a species, as creatures floating through the universe, this is what we're doing. And to me, that just no other story, as you said, no other story hits you that way.
Yeah. Kyle, the source of your reason for doing space work and what drives your creative work?
Well, definitely, we all have 24 hours in a day, and like, what do you want to do with those 24 hours every day? And, for us, the inspiration is really about choosing what the future is, like getting up and being excited about something rather than just watching the news and looking at all the things that aren't going well. And, we all know that what solves for space can solve for Earth, and getting that message out to people too, because some people, if it's like, it's either one or the other, but it's not, it's all connected. And, we want to inspire others to grow the community, just like what we were all just saying here. I mean, Supercluster does such great work. Everybody here does such great work, and there's room for all of us. And when we all come together, that's where the real strength is. And, and I'm excited because we started really being serious about space in about 2008 and dedicating most of our time and resources and creative energy to it. And what I've seen since 2008 to today is massive growth, and massive excitement, and people that are jumping on board and co-creating and getting together and doing all these different events and things that really brings more people out, the rest of people who maybe tuned in to like what's possible, and then being excited about becoming a multiplanetary species, because that's a deep topic, but that I'll leave it there. But that's really the source of that. And we just, if anybody that knows us, we cannot not be creating. We're like constantly have 30 projects going on.
I can attest.
Yeah, I think they're all overworkers here. Yes.
Yeah, we are all total overachievers.
You have to run the engine or you go nuts.
Exactly. Yeah, but thanks. Yeah, and on to you, Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's, you guys said it, but and I know we're short on time, so I'll be brief. But I guess I was born too late to explore the Earth in some ways. We've already seen the Amazon and went to the North Pole and all that. And if I want to really expand my imagination as a storyteller and as someone who loves science, and I want to look into, I mean, it's a cliche, but look into the unknown. The only category, or the best category, is going to be space exploration to tell that story. I also think that it's a space, as we've pointed out here, that has so much work left to be done to really connect people to it again. We're still having 60 years later debates about funding this or funding that. We're still having debates of why do we send people when we got problems on Earth? And it seems like that's a story that we just need to do better to tell, because obviously everyone here is a believer, and I think that once people are properly exposed to that story, they get on board pretty quick. And it has, even if it just has a little piece of that unifying overview effect, even if you can't go to space, that's worth doing.
Well said.
Absolutely.
Jamie.
Thank you so much. All right. I am very, very grateful for all of you. And now,
we're cutting
I
this
just
short because we need you guys to get back to work immediately.
Yeah, exactly. That's
we can't keep too much of your time, but we really appreciate
have to get in this plane.
Yeah. Hillary has to fly away right on the live stream.
If you fly out of the shot on camera,
I mean, that would just end the show, points. I think, if we just. But thank all three of you for your insights, and thank you for everything that you all do every single day for all of us. I think it's a big team effort, and we all complement each other really, really well. Team Space, like I said, this is the Avengers. Take a screenshot. Thank you all for being here, and we'll have you guys back talking about your work soon, I'm sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, MaryLiz.
Thanks, everybody.
Good to see you, Jamie and Hillary.
Thanks, Jamie and Kyle.
Nice to meet you guys.
Enjoy the event. And as everybody probably knows, if you're in Zoom or you're in the YouTube chats, we've been dropping links to all of the hosts, so you have an idea of how to continue following their beautiful work. I'll say that I'm really, really grateful to those three, especially, and some of the other folks on this stream, Tim Dodd, others, for sharing this in a way that's so accessible to the public, because that's why there is this new era. That's why it's so exciting. That's why there's all this public support now. And that said, you know, Robin, you and I and many others have been for the last few years telling everybody, preaching to them about this new era of
evangelizing
private space travel.
Yeah.
Yes, we're like, it's coming, be ready. You should be astronaut training right now. I went with Hillary on a Mars simulation mission because my friend, Dr. Cyan Proctor, suggested I do so. So we've been preparing for this moment, but I had no idea how quickly this moment of private space travel was really going to arrive until, as I introduce our next guest.
Yeah, and let me say real quick, I was doing that as well, just sitting next to this kid named John down at Cape Canaveral. He presses buttons all the time. Really great kid, really bright future. I don't know what happened to him, but oh, and here we go.
Wait a minute.
How did we land John Kraus for this? I do not.
Well, when I heard that I'd get to be on the same panel with Cyan and you guys, like, I jumped all over it.
Hey, Cyan, I love the gear that you got. I need to get that vest. It looks amazing on both of you. Good coordination there,
nice
by
job,
the way. And welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Just wear it every day.
So for those of you who do not know, Dr. Cyan Proctor just returned from space, okay?
Right.
She went on the Inspiration 4 mission on a SpaceX Crew Dragon, orbited the planet for 3 days, came back, and she's like a phoenix rising, as she likes to say. I'll let her explain it. But Cyan, thank you so much for your time again. You're also in the same house. I forced her on here.
Hanging out with my people. This is where everybody is. So no place I'd rather be, except for maybe out in
space. Right. Absolutely. And we'd like to welcome John here, who did not go to space yet, but we're betting money that he may be at some point. We don't know what that will do to his ego, but we're excited for him. John, we've been working together for so long, including MaryLiz and all of us. We've all watched this industry grow together. It's been an honor to work by your side. It's been an honor to be your editor and see you do all these amazing things in the industry. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Thank you guys for having me. It's awesome to join so many people here. So it's exciting.
I want to get started because you just mentioned it's unbelievable that it's been a month somehow. I don't know how time works anymore post-COVID, but it's amazing that this mission was already a month ago. It feels like it was yesterday because the excitement is still in all of us. I think we lost MaryLiz there for a moment, but that's okay. She'll be back. Dr. Proctor, tell us real quick why you wanted to go to space.
You know, it's been a dream of mine since I was a kid. I was born on Guam because my dad was working at the NASA tracking station. I grew up with NASA memorabilia throughout the house. And I just remember that as a kid, always looking up with this awe and wonder. And then you throw in the storytelling and Star Trek and, you know, Lieutenant Uhura, played by Nichelle Nichols, and wanting to be out trekking across the galaxy and exploring new worlds and boldly going. And so it was just one of these things of thinking, all right, if I want to do this, how am I going to achieve this? Can I achieve this? Right. And so a lifelong dream come true.
Now, if you had to spotlight one major challenge, forget the applications, forget NASA. When you guys were training for this mission, what was the one thing? And I asked this in the hangar before the flight. I know I did, but I'm going to ask you again here. What was the single biggest challenge for you, Dr. Proctor, when preparing for that Dragon flight?
You know, part of that is, and I think there are people on this call and listening that can relate to this, is this idea of imposter syndrome of, you know, you finally get that big moment to be on a stage, but you're slightly terrified that you're going to mess it up somehow, or it's going to be taken away from you. and you're gonna miss out on the big moment. And so it's that idea of how you balance your, inside that voice that sometimes tries to derail you, and being able to subdue that voice and get on with the action at hand, knowing that you are qualified, that you are good enough, that you can do this. But we all have sometimes that voice of doubt that tries to fuel you with, just misinformation. And that's, I think, one of the biggest struggles. But I'm living proof that, you can get beyond that kind of voice, that imposter syndrome, and be successful and make it happen.
Thank you. John, you were one of the folks that applied to be part of this mission, and you quickly became an important voice for the mission, and you raised a lot of money for St. Jude, selling prints of your incredible photography. Tell us your reaction to getting that call from Jared that you were going to be the official mission photographer.
Yeah, so I had heard some chatter at that point that like finalists were selected for what ultimately was Cyan's seat, the Prosperity seat. So I was like 99.5% sure that I wasn't getting like the call. But I had been planning actually throughout my application process and campaign, and then like after the contest closed, to solicit my services to be the campaign photographer. And I actually sent a note to Jared. There's like so many webs to this story, but like I sent a note to Jared. He hadn't yet gotten the note about me wanting to be the photographer, and then he asked, which I thought was like a really cool thing.
That's funny.
But it was just like, it was instantly like I realized the profound opportunity that it was. Obviously it wasn't going to space, and that's totally fine. Like I still have a lot of time ahead of me to try to make that happen. But it was amazing to get the privilege to help share Cyan and the crew's story. And I really struggle with like putting it into words, that's why I'm a photographer. But I mean, Cyan can attest to this, but I was very lucky to form an incredible bond with the crew and the team, a bond that I really didn't think that I'd get to form with everybody when I was starting out. And I think like after 2 or 3 times hanging out, we were all like really good friends, and I got to be way more integrated into
it really did seem that way, that you guys had a camaraderie and you'd really grown close during your training. And John, for you had to follow along and document it as a journalist in a way. What was the most challenging thing for you? Because did you have to climb a mountain with them and do all the crazy training? Because I knew you were in the fighter jets.
I was really lucky to fly in the fighters, but I did not climb the mountain. So I know where I'm at, like physically, and I was offered to climb the mountain, and I was like, I cannot climb this mountain.
So he said no to the mountain.
I did say no to the mountain. That's like the only thing I said no to. But I would say the hardest thing is, and it's worth pointing this out, like I'm not, well, I guess now, but at the time I wasn't really a people photographer. I got this job because I was a rocket photographer, and like so much of that. I take pictures of rockets. So I didn't really have experience with people before this. So I'd say that was the biggest challenge, was like 6 months of people photography that led up to a rocket launch, which is my normal thing. So it was just hard, getting a picture of all 4 crew with all eyes open, making happy faces. And, I would always we had a little group chat where I would send photos to the crew and the team and like make sure that they were okay with how they looked before they went out. And I think maybe Cy could confirm, but I think I did a good job with that.
Did he do a good job?
It was fun.
Are you satisfied with his photography?
Yes. And so, and he's right. We did become really close. And in fact, I call him Little John. He's called Snap, but he's always like, I feel like my little brother. And so I'm
I love that.
John, let's go hang out and do something. So
now, not to jump too ahead here, but Dr. Proctor and I have met a couple times, and one of them was when we were the inaugural Yuri's Night ambassadors a few years back. And what I take from our quick introduction was that you were going to Mars. And now that seems even more possible that, and I'm not going to put you on the spot here, but I am. Are you already training? Because you're an orbital astronaut now. You've flown on Dragon. SpaceX talks a lot about going to Mars. So you seem qualified now to me and to many of the world. And I believe that a person like you, if you put your mind to it, you will reach the Martian surface. Now, is that something that you still want to do? When do you start training? And can we fit John in the suitcase?
You know, I call him Little John for a reason. So I think we can fit him into the suitcase.
Okay, that's good news.
Hey, I'm little.
MaryLiz is back. Yay.
I'm little.
Yeah, MaryLiz can fit. MaryLiz can fit.
Yeah.
I can't.
If I'm going, I'm taking as many people along as I can. That's number one.
Good.
And number two, you know, anything when it comes to exploration, whether it's going to the moon or Mars or beyond, I'm definitely somebody who wants to sign up and participate, to go there. And so I'm not going to turn down a trip to Mars. I consider myself a moon baby. So if I had a choice, I would choose the moon over Mars. But I think, you know, realistically, when we think about going to Mars and who we should send, I think we should look at seasoned individuals. I like to call myself seasoned because we have the skills and the knowledge and the ability. And when we're thinking about that radiation profile and some of the things that can happen along the way, you know, having that spot for seasoned individuals to kind of pave the way just makes sense.
Okay, so Dr. Proctor is going to the moon, not Mars. Maybe Mars.
Hey, I don't know. I think there's time for both.
We can get both in.
There's time to. I think it is a stepping stone.
Yeah.
You know, you go from orbital to moon and then on to Mars.
Okay.
All right, what did I miss? I'm just kidding.
We're packing John and we're sending him to space via luggage.
Everything in its right place. Everything in its right place. Cyan, did you share? I'm sorry, my computer died, so I just had to restart and come back.
That darn Earth technology.
Yeah, come on. I mean, we can send Cyan to space for 3 days, but I can't keep my computer running. Cyan, did you share yet about your amazing experience? I mean, I've heard it from you personally, but were you able to share about your overview effect experience and that moment that you were able to try to capture that with your own poetry and your art while you were in space?
Right. You know, again, I had met with Frank before going to space because it was one of the things where just wanting to understand more about the overview effect. And then some other people talking about flow and what Kyle brought up and how you get into flow and experience this moment and have it be transformed. But being a geoscientist for my career, I already knew a lot about kind of how we think about humanity and no borders and, you know, how things impact us like disasters and stuff like that. But going as an artist and a poet was a new thing for me because it's something that I just started. And so when we opened the cupola up and I loaded up there and I saw our bright blue ball, it was emotional. It was amazing. But what really struck me was, you know, that we had this view, the entire sphere of the Earth. And my brain started looking at how the clouds were swirling as we were moving. And it just made me think of a painting, you know, that this is a portrait in motion and that we have we're the brush strokes. Us are individual brush strokes painting the future of this planet, this place we call home. And, you know, I teach planetary science. I can tell you there's no place better in our solar system than Earth. Mm-hmm. And thinking about how we are going to determine what that future is going to be and how beautiful it is and how amazing and one of a kind that our planet is. And that with that comes responsibility. And so as I sat there and I have this view and I'm just thinking about how, you know, if we can just get more of us to experience this in some way and understand that we individually sometimes feel like we cannot, you know, have an impact. We're too small as an individual. Mm-hmm. What can I do? I get that from my students all the time when we talk about sustainable cities and sustainable world. And then I say, well, if you take just one action, just one thing to, you know, help others or to help our environment, and we all do that collectively, then we become a force to reckon with. But it's you as an individual, just pick one thing and be a change agent. And I think that's a message that we can share is that we are agents of change individually, but collectively we move mountains.
Beautifully put, Cyan. Thank you. I I have one wrap-up question, if it's okay, and I hope it wasn't asked, but John, we both applied for the Inspiration Force seat. You and I also want to go, Robin. We all want to go. But John, as such an amazing photographer that you have such an eye for capturing a moment, like almost none other. And I just want to know, Cyan, if you have any advice for John, and John, if you have a question that you want to ask about this, what is the advice for capturing what you experience up there?
I think it starts with, he's doing it already. It's capturing the moments of our lives, whether that be the things that we build, the rockets and stuff, or the individuals, the humans that interact with that. And I think that John was talking about how he was able to go from rockets to people, and that there's this meld or synergy that happens when you bring both of them together. And I would say just keep doing what you're doing. And you didn't get it this time, but let me tell you, it's opening up, and all of you are going. Everyone who's
no
on
doubt
the call wants to go. Space is opening up, and we are going to have those abilities. But the thing about it is, as we strive for this new era of space, we need to think of it being a Jedi space, a just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive space for everyone. And we all have a responsibility to make that happen, to think about what role we play in creating a Jedi space for the future.
Well said, Dr. Proctor. And John, one quick question: Moon or Mars?
Do I get to come home?
He's already
Do I
scared.
get to come home in either
yes.
choice?
Round trip.
Mars.
All righty.
I want to go where people haven't. But I go to the moon. Like if it was the moon or nothing, I'll go to the moon.
He won't say no to a trip.
You said Mars. You said Mars.
Too
You're
late,
not going on
too
the
late.
mission now.
You're going on the more dangerous mission. Sorry, John.
We'll see.
Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
An honor to know you both and to be part of what you guys achieved. Covering Inspiration 4 was an incredible experience for myself, being down there with you all. And I think it was a very historic mission and something we should always think about, and always think about that breakthrough. And that's the way I see the Inspiration 4 mission as hey, look, those people live next door and now they're in space. That's crazy.
That's what I was going to say. Right when I was dropping from the feed, I just wanted to say it was when Cyan finally was able to tell all of her friends, all right, I won the seat to space, that I realized, oh my God, the new era is here. This is happening. My friends are going to space. Yeah. So thank you both so much for your time and energy. I would like to introduce the new panel with that, and I hope you all stick around and enjoy the rest of the event.
Enjoy the rest of it, guys. Thank you so much.
So about this new era, I mean, it's not just anymore about what we have been doing in the past. It's not just about sending people, 4 people, 3 people in a capsule at a time. Obviously we've got developments all over the place, but right now we're seeing this extremely exciting new era of space tourism. And Virgin Galactic is one of those companies that is completely reinventing the way that we explore space and see our planet from a new perspective. So I would love to introduce our next set of guests. Beth Moses is an incredible person. She is an astronaut and the chief astronaut instructor and interiors program manager for Virgin Galactic Spaceship Two program. Hello, Beth. It looks like you're in the ship.
She's in the virtual ship, and that is, thank you for putting the work into that. I love the presentation, and it's an honor to have you with us, Beth. Thank you for being here.
You got the suit on and everything. Yeah.
It's an honor to be here.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you. And then a very, very dear friend of mine, Loretta Whitesides, also behind me, behind this door. We should all just be, your guys' live stream didn't drop. We should have just been in the same
house or something, maybe.
Loretta is a person that just, the way I best like to describe her is just this person that lives from the heart. She is a close friend She is a future Virgin Galactic flyer, which is why I think this conversation could be super exciting.
Yes.
And she's the author of the new Right Stuff. So she has insights into the way that this is opening up to new people. It's not just about the old school right stuff, right? And she is also the founder of SpaceKind training. I'm a SpaceKinder. I went through her course, and Loretta, I will let you to speak to that in just a minute, but I just want to say welcome.
Thank you, MaryLiz. Lovely to be here. It's good to see you too, Beth. This is great.
Great to see everyone.
So the first thing that I would like to ask is, Beth, what is your, how are you feeling about this new era? How are you feeling about the future flights upcoming? What does this mean to you that this is opening up in a new way?
Oh, well, I feel exhilarated, excited, purposeful. I've been at Virgin Galactic for 8 years, and I go to work every day and every night and every moment in between to try to open space up to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Loretta and I have crossed paths in the midnight hours many times. And I just think it's phenomenal. I mean, I think it is the future. And broadly speaking, as you have all already articulated so much better than I could, humanity and our perception of ourselves is really at an inflection point. I mean, this is the beginning of, the next sort of version of humanity. This, Earth is at a new age. This is the space age. We are living through the dawn of the space age. And I cannot think of anything more exciting than space, any profession I wanted more than aerospace. I'm an aerospace engineer and now a suborbital professional astronaut. And I cannot think of anything more transformative or exciting than people going to space. So I love it.
I'm with you on that one. Loretta, I have the same question for you. How are you feeling about this new era, and what does it mean to you? Why do you put so much into it?
And before she answers, I want to say that it is Loretta who puts together the Yuri's Night for us every year.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. There are too many titles.
Loretta has 37 titles, so we're never going to have enough time to say them all. But I brought up Yuri's Night earlier, and I want to say that just off the baseline, Loretta creates a space for us to celebrate this every year.
It's where I met you, Robin.
And it's where we met. And I just want to say off the bat, Loretta makes it possible for these events to happen all year, every year. So thank you, Loretta. Sorry I interrupted you.
No, thank you.
So as many of you know, I'm super passionate about connecting people at a heart level. This is about community. This is about building family. This is about building trust. I love to talk about how, information has become abundant and accessible, and trust is the new commodity. And so I love that you come to Yuri's Night events and meet each other. And we got this, these space community, we got the SpaceKind community. And it's just a privilege to get to do what I love to do and help people along the way. And as for your question, MaryLiz, about what it's like this moment, oh my gosh, it's overwhelming. Like, we've been doing this for 20 years. And then this year, it's like 20 years. And then this year goes,
everybody all at once, all at the same time, in a matter of 90 days.
Beth's gone, Branson's gone, Bezos is gone, Shatner's gone. My friend Chris Bosshausen just went to space. My friend Cyan just spent 3 days on orbit and had a Netflix special. I mean, it's just like, my mind is like, the phone blows up with text messages. My mind is blowing up with excitement. So it was so everything we've been working so hard for so long is real, and it's astounding, and it's like overloads my circuits. So I was really excited when I was at Science Launch in Florida that I had a circle of spacers to just sit with.
Yeah, and just be there, huh?
She maybe
she's
we
froze while meditating. That is so Loretta right there. I love it.
That's actually it.
Exploded her video camera and her phone and her brain.
There we go.
Awesome. We got to work on that technology.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm unstable. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good now.
Beth, I need to ask you about what it's like to fly on this incredible spacecraft, Spaceship Two, and also what it's like to fly with your boss, which could be weird. But yeah, let's get to the first question first. What is it like being in this spacecraft? Tell us that emotion, that energy of, what is that?
When I returned from my first flight, of course, I was immediately asked that, and it's being in space, at apogee in Spaceship Two, is indescribable. I know that doesn't do justice to these kind of events, because obviously you would like to hear what it's like, but right. I really feel like I don't have appropriate words for it. So I'm going to do sort of a poor man's approximation. I don't think, words have been put to the emotions that this trend, that this causes, or other than things like overview effect and things like looking other astronauts in the eye with that look of knowing. I don't think we all can very well articulate it at this point. Right, so I'm very eager to get not just pilots and professional astronauts, but poets and more artists up into space, so that I can duck that question to somebody more capable of answering.
Just link to someone else when you get asked. Yeah.
But let me steal for just a moment kind of everyone's full attention for a slightly long answer to that question. Sure. Partially because suborbital is different from orbital, and I have mad respect for orbital programs. I was at NASA for many, many years. But I'd like, since you asked, to describe my overview effect experience, and it's tied directly to the suborbital profile of Spaceship Two.
Sure.
Please.
We'd love to hear it.
We are studying how to maximize the transformation, the experience, the effect through training, through trajectory, through everything. My first flight was the first real life test of that. And we had theorized that turning the ship upside down, so the windows faced Earth and the limb of the Earth and didn't face, deep space, would be ideal. I think that's still true. And we had theorized that coasting purely vertically and slowly coming to a stop at the top of our trajectory, and then descending down for entry, and then turning the vehicle to meet the atmosphere would be an ideal trajectory. And we didn't realize until after that flight, nobody realized until the historians came forward, that no one in history, all the suborbital flights before, had either gone purely vertical and come to a stop, or unstrapped. Everyone else in X-15 and Mercury, they were pilots strapped in, or they were going downrange for speed for effectively military purposes on ballistic missiles, from military days. So I was, oddly, the first person to unstrap, float in the middle of our ship, not holding on, no hands, no feet, look ma, no hands, no feet, and look out through our windows at the majesty of Earth as the ship coasted to a complete stop. And because we had studied it and orchestrated it, the pilots were silent, the ship was silent, and it was completely timeless. I was totally surprised because I was scripted and trained down to the half second, right? I mean, I was trying to get for my team the most data from this flight we possibly could. I was going on behalf of, everyone, past, present, and future, that was trying to field this system, right? So I was literally scripted, hardcore engineering testing to get the most data. And yet here I am looking at Earth at this completely still, timeless moment. And it is still seared into my soul. I saw, space that was blacker than black, matte black, infinite. And then I saw the Earth, 1,000 miles, the blue of the ocean, the beautiful land. I could see halfway up the US, halfway down Mexico. I flew out of California. I didn't see any walls. I didn't see any borders. I just saw Mother Earth, and I was completely still, and we were completely still, and Mother Earth was living and indescribable. And I was really fortunate to fly on a day when there was snow on the mountains all through California, and they were just glistening like diamonds. They were just just, ice-capped mountains, and I could just stop and take it in. Not for long, I had to get back to work, but that right there is something of an epiphany, something of a transformation. It's still with me. It still affects all of my decisions and actions and personality, and it's truly magical. And I had just a taste of it, and we are refining it even further. And I cannot wait until that soaks into people, not just on Spaceship Two, but on every other vehicle that is going to space with humans. Suborbital, suborbital, orbital, cislunar, lunar, Martian, I don't care. Anybody that goes to space is going to get some flavor of that effect, which we are talking about here today. And it's magical, and I think important and healing and forward-looking.
Thank you that was beautiful, Beth. Thank you so much for sharing that. Loretta, I'm guessing you're excited for your flight.
Oh, I've heard Beth talk about her flight before, but I've never heard her say that. That was amazing. I'm sorry. I'm excited.
Don't be sorry. Don't ever. One thing I want to say is I have interviewed a lot of astronauts, and like Charlie Bolden said it really well. He said, I was trained to the T. Technically, I was completely prepared. Emotionally, I was totally unprepared for that experience. And looking into your eyes in the digital way that I can here, and hearing you tell me about your experience, which, you say it's suborbital, it's less time, but somehow it's like with Shatner, him too, he was so profoundly changed by a few minutes looking at our planet from above. And I think it speaks volumes of who you are, I should say not who you are, because, the other folks are the same, they're deep people, but I think it speaks to your preparation. You obviously were aware that this was an experience, and you were prepping yourself, and you made use of that time. And I am really grateful. And Loretta, we talk about it all the time about how important it is to be present and to really fully experience this. I know you have a ton of time in weightlessness, so you've already got that out. The flippy-doos, what did Nicole say, out of your system?
Don't do any flip-de-doos in space.
What do you plan to do, Loretta? How are you hoping to, when you finally take your flight, how are you hoping to take this in?
Oh, I love the William Shatner lane. I'm going that way. just be in front of the window. Maybe do what Glen did, be upside down at the window. I do like being upside down. I do like standing on the roof. That's my favorite thing. You can do a flip off a diving board, but nowhere on Earth can you stand on the roof. Yeah, exactly. Just like Beth.
Right there, Loretta, right there. That's your window, right there.
Beth came prepared for this.
And hopefully come back just as gobsmacked and tongue-tied and overcome as he did. That was so beautiful to watch him. Just so emotion. It was. I loved it. That sounds great to me. Sign me up.
So you're stoked.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say you're stoked.
I want to hear you say, I don't want to lose it. I don't want to ever forget this experience. And I don't doubt it. But I think there's going to be a lot more screaming and like.
And I love what Cyan said too, because she was saying, telling John, like, well, how do you prepare for this? Well, the whole thing is about being present and being able to second. And I thought, it's like SpaceKind training. I was like, okay, maybe we should all be going out and just try to spend 3 days completely present. Luckily with Virgin Galactic, I've only have to practice spending a couple minutes. That's much easier. Yeah, I can do 3 to 5 minutes completely present. Well, okay, more or less. 3 days, that would be hard. So anyway, but I'll pick your challenge. You can do 3 minutes, you can do 3 days. But all of us, how great would that be if you walk around your life that full of bliss and joy and presence as, Cyan was on orbit. I think that sounds like a great space bucket challenge.
Yeah, and that's what Nicole says. She's always saying, I can't believe I had to go there to understand that this is a planet full of magic. And I want people to keep their feet planted firmly and experience the awe and wonder all around us every day.
I love awe and wonder. And I'm so excited because also Yuri's Night, Robin, mark your calendar, Yuri's Night 2024. There's going to be another total eclipse of the sun coming through the United States. The second one in my lifetime. So excited. It'll go from Dallas, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Buffalo, Maine. And I'm on a mission to get as many Yuri's Night parties, as many events as we can along the path of brutality, and millions of people to go, because it's like a free space flight. It's a powerful experience of the overview effect that you could have from the ground. And I want all of us to be hosts at all these events so we can curate this experience for people, and they can have the overview experience, like watching these two celestial spheres just line up perfectly in the heavens and realizing, like, in their body that they're Earthlings and they're on a spaceship, they're on a planet. I just think it's gonna be so fun. So yeah, Yuri's Night 2024.
I can't wait. That is truly an awe and wonder transformative moment, a total solar eclipse. There is nothing like it, and you better believe I'm doing Starbase version. I'm doing Louisville, Kentucky. We got it covered. All right. I want to thank you both so much. I mean, it's a super honor to have you both here, of course. I hope you also stick around for the event. Really, really appreciate you too. Thank you for everything that you're doing.
With us. And Beth, that sharing your experience like that, amazing. Thank you.
That was good.
I think I want to fly on Virgin Galactic now.
Well, yeah.
So if anyone out there is listening,
I'm flying.
Rinse the or Omaze and has to pick a buddy to fly.
I'm into it. I'd like to fly with Beth actually, because she's experienced. So yes. More experience, better. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Enjoy. Bye.
That was lovely. I would actually fly, if anyone's listening, I would fly on any of the spaceships.
Of course.
Asterisk.
Are you kidding me? I want all.
We're going to take we have a little bit of an intermission. It's going to be about 5 minutes, and it's going to be a Supercluster film produced by our team called The Station. And it's our ode to the International Space Station, all that it's accomplished and all that humanity has accomplished to build and operate it. And our film starts in the 40s in the science fiction era of dreaming of a space station, and works its all the way up to Congress and celebrating holidays on the space station today. So enjoy the video. It's only going to be part of the film. You can watch the rest of the film on supercluster.com. And MaryLiz and I will be back with you in about 5 minutes.
Enjoy.
You know, this flight to the space station could become just a routine stopover. An interplanet buster.
This is a story of tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow, when men have built a station in space.
Man-carrying space stations had been circling the Earth for several years, and trips to and from the stations were not unusual.
We are 21,000 miles from base, bearing at 270 degrees. Bravo Zulu 88, calling Zulu Extra 34.
You belong here, Barney. You're my son. Space is your heritage.
May 14, 1973, when the unmanned Skylab Saturn workshop was hurled aloft at Cape Kennedy.
America has always been greatest when we dared to be great. We can reach for greatness again. We can follow our dreams to distant stars, living and working in space for peaceful economic and scientific gain. Tonight, I am directing NASA to develop a permanently manned space station and to do it within a decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to the Department of State on the occasion of
Hey everyone, we are back. I hope you enjoyed a few minutes of that film. You can check out the rest at supercluster.com. MaryLiz, I think we're going to go ahead and move on with our next panelists, which we did pre-record. Let me pull that up.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to do that before going to Dylan. So the reason I'm saying this is I know we're a little over on time, and I think Dylan wanted to come in while he had some time. So
let's do it. Let's do it now.
Well, yeah. Dylan,
do we want to bring? Yeah. Do we want to bring? We have Dylan
ready.
Taylor with us, and as everyone
Hi,
is in
Dylan.
the industry. There we go. Hey, Dylan.
It's great to see you. I'm so sorry about the timing. I just want to quickly introduce Dylan is a really great friend. He is one of the main reasons that we are living this new era as well. So grateful to all you've done to advance this new era of space exploration. He's the founder of Space for Humanity. So they are working to open up access to their citizen astronauts. And he's the CEO of Voyager Space Holdings and the founder of Multiverse Media, who has published the 4th edition of the Overview Effect. And so I'm really grateful to have you here. Thank you, Dylan, and for being flexible on timing.
My pleasure. Good to see you, Robin and MaryLiz. And if it's okay, maybe I just wanted to say a few words about Frank just before I have to drop. And
of course,
please.
They're from the heart, so bear with me here a bit. But when I think about Frank White, two things are remarkable about him that are in addition to maybe anything else I could say about him. The first is he really is the godfather of a social movement. So if you look at the apex of everything we've talked about, all the projects all of us are working on, all the things we've gotten excited about, all the inspiration that I think Jeff and Elon share, Jerry O'Neill, all that stuff really emanates from the voice that Frank has lent to this movement. Not only the term he's coined, but the way he has conducted himself in the community and the way he has exemplified what the impact of the overview effect actually means. So that's remarkable. If you think about the number of humans who've actually impacted a social movement, that's a very small set of people. The second thing about Frank is he is probably the highest integrity person I've ever met. Let me just define what I mean by integrity. To me, integrity is in the literal sense of the word, how durable are you? So under different situations, with different communities, with different people, under different pressures, under different states of mind, how consistent are you with your conduct? And Frank is the most consistently kind and generous and amazing human I've ever met. And I've seen him in very different situations, stressful situations, joyful situations. Frank is Frank. And he's the highest integrity person I know. And it's an honor to publish not only his 4th edition book, I just want to plug the fact that Frank is the author and co-author of 14 books. And we're having the privilege of publishing his whole canon under Multiverse Media. And there's a lot of great work that he's done that people just don't know about. So I would just highly recommend people to check that out. And again, I'm just so grateful to have Frank in my life. I'm so grateful to have Frank as part of this community that we built. He's an amazing human. And so I just want to extend that introduction to him. I know we're a little bit early in show here to do that, but I wanted to do that before I had to drop. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being flexible. It's such an honor to have someone who's known Frank for so long. I only met him a few years ago, but I see the same in him. I think he's the most humble, beautiful human. And I think it would take that kind of thoughtful human to come up to even conceive of such a thing as the overview effect. But thank you, Dylan, for spreading his message to the world, for really helping. And
Dylan, thank you for everything that you do in our industry too, as a leader and as an investor. I think that a lot of folks keep the wheels turning here, and Dylan is absolutely one of them. So thank you, Dylan, and thanks for being with us. And we will have Frank with us in not too long to deliver his epic keynote. So thank you, Dylan.
Thank you, guys. Great to see you. Thanks so much.
Great to see you too.
Bye.
All right.
All right. Next up, we have a fun segment. We
A
are gonna
really fun segment.
So here we're gonna let MaryLiz and I are gonna take another break because we just need breaks all the time. We're gonna bring in our friend Tim Dodd. What up, Tim?
Hello, Tim.
Hey, guys, how are you guys?
Tim, are you down at Starbase? You're down at Starbase right now?
Nope. I'm in Iowa. I'm animating combustion instability right now in After Effects.
Okay, I'm gonna go Google that. We're gonna bring in Jamie, who's gonna be hanging out with Tim here. Jamie, where are you in he's in space. We need to bring him down here.
Yeah, I'm here in the Milky Way. That's not very specific.
There he is. There he is.
Yeah, somewhere. Awesome. I don't know how to point to it.
Okay.
In this general area is where we all are.
Okay. MaryLiz and I are going to go Google whatever Tim just said. And then you guys have fun with whatever you're about to do. I'll catch you guys a little bit.
Cool. I have to say two things before we start. First, I'm nervous. We're going to do a quiz show thing. I'm nervous. And second, Jamie, big fan of your work.
Oh, thank you so much. That's great. I'm a fan of yours too, man. That's great. Because it's also one of those things where I knew about who you were long before this was going to happen. You know what I mean? Like years ago, I was like, oh, let's check this out. And I saw all your YouTube stuff. So it's really great to have this moment. I will say, before we get in the quiz game, we have to ask you, do you know when we're going to get this Starship orbital test? When hop, as everybody would ask?
My current orbit meter, and actually has been for about 4 or 5 months. When they stacked it, I actually was saying kind of to my friends and people that I still didn't think it was going to fly till 2022, and Still thinking it probably won't fly until 2022. That's my best when hop meter at the moment.
Well, thank you for that. I think now it's time to get into it as we're a little bit jammed up on the schedule. So I'm going to explain the rules. We are now in game show mode.
Oh, no.
We're going to basically it's very simple. This is going to be trivia for Tim Dodd, but to everybody in the audience, you have an opportunity to win a prize. The way this works is the questions will get progressively harder. And eventually, if Tim misses one, someone from the audience wins a prize. So as you'll see, when we get to the end, I might throw in some that aren't exactly fair, but we'll start out. So I just want to warn you, Tim, this isn't meant to catch you out. It's so that maybe eventually we can win a prize. So let's get right into that. I'm going to switch over to my space music here. Oh, one thing is you'll know you got the question right if you hear this sound. Oh, wait, no, I have to turn off I'm trying to run a Zoom game show. It's a little weird. Okay, that music turns off. If you get the question right, you hear this. And if it's wrong, you hear this. And we go to the audience. So let's get started right now. The first question, as you can see, concerns the sun.
Oh, God.
Our sun. This is actually a little bit political. How many planets are in the solar system?
Oh, God. Well, I'm gonna stick with good old. I'm gonna stick with 8.
Yes, we're accepting that. And I'm sorry if I'm offending anyone in the audience by excluding Pluto or not mentioning the possible secret 9th planet, but that's where we are. So the next question, also concerning our sun, is what is the star closest to our sun?
Oh, isn't it just Alpha Centauri?
Ooh, very close, actually. It's Proxima Centauri. Now, am I getting this wrong, audience? Did I mess that up? I think Proxima Centauri. Okay, so actually, early on now, we have to ask our hosts who in the audience we can give a prize to. Oh, I did want to mention what the prizes are, because they're pretty fun. We have 2 copies of the 4th edition of Frank White's The Overview Effect. We've got some Supercluster patches, including a Starhopper patch, the Starship patch, and also the JWST patch, the James Webb, and some Cosmic Perspective Starship posters. So I'm hoping that there's a conversation happening in the chat about who we're going to give that first prize to. So now, though, we're going to move on to the moon.
David Isbell. David Isbell.
Oh, exciting.
Like, where's this voice?
Yes, congratulations,
David Isbell wins the first prize. Yay.
I like the audio. That is great.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, God. Is it more astronomy?
What mission was the last to go to the moon?
Apollo 17, 1972.
That's correct. Very good. Why? Oh, let me switch to the nice photo. Here's Discovery launching. We see these big clouds of water vapor. Why is there water dumped all over the launch pad during a launch?
A sound suppression / water deluge system that absorbs sound energy as well as reflective damage of said sound energy to prevent the space shuttle's tiles from falling off.
Yes, big guess on that one. Very well said. Okay, now the next question here. What is hypergolic fuel?
It is an oxidizer and a fuel propellant mixture that spontaneously combusts upon contact.
Absolutely right. Okay, so now we're going to move on to some things that I think are even a little bit more in your wheelhouse, hopefully. Some rocket engine questions. So here behind me, we see the Falcon Heavy. Yep. How many engines does the Falcon Heavy have?
28 when you include the upper stage Merlin vacuum optimized engine. 27 on the first stage.
You get that right, and you're more correct than my notes were, so well done. What propellants are used in this, which is the SpaceX Raptor engine, zoomed in kind of a lot?
Liquid methane and liquid oxygen, otherwise known as methanol.
Yes, exactly right. Okay, the next one is going to be multiple choice about the Atlas V. This is Atlas V, right? I didn't show the wrong image. Okay, what is the mass without payload? You can just answer if you know, but I'll give you multiple choice for this. Okay. A, 590,000 kilograms. B, 750,000 kilograms. Or C, 1.2 million kilograms. I can give you those again if you want. 590K, 750K, or 1.2 million kilograms.
Well, let me think about this. The RD-180 produces, what is it, like 3.8 meganewtons of thrust? I'm actually going to go with, I can't convert that. I'm not smart enough. I'm going to go with the smallest one, whatever A was.
That's correct. 590,000 kilograms. Well done.
Yeah.
And which two sites does the Atlas V launch from?
The Atlas V can launch from LC LC 30. 40.
I'm good just with Cape Canaveral for this question.
Oh, Cape Canaveral, yeah.
Yeah, so you're already
Vandenberg Air Force Base.
Yes, that's all I was looking for, is those two places.
41, 3E.
Yes, which, by the way, just as a note, I'm going to still call it Vandenberg Air Force Base. I'm not totally down with this Space Force Base. I don't know. Maybe later. Okay, this one was a little tougher, at least on my end. What propellant does Atlas V use?
Atlas V has multiple propellants because it will use kerosene. So RP1, Kerolox on the first stage, and Hydrolox on the Centaur upper stage.
Yes, Hydrolox is what we're looking for, but you were more correct than I even needed. Okay, now the dramatic music is betraying me. Okay, on what mission did people first fly on the Saturn V rocket?
It would have been Apollo 8 was the first flight of the Saturn V with people.
Yep, that's it. And which is more powerful, Saturn V or the boosters of Super Heavy that will launch Starship?
Super Heavy by almost double.
Yes. Okay, now we're getting into the really tricky questions here.
Good.
Who was the fifth astronaut to fly in space?
Fifth astronaut to fly in. So we go. So John Glenn, then. Oh God! Oh, fifth astronaut period, like U.S. astronaut.
No, I'm giving it to you because you just mumbled John Glenn, and that's the answer. So you get that one correct. How many cats have flown in space?
Oh God, I don't think it's that many. I'm gonna say there was a pair I think that flew together in the Soviet Union. I'm gonna say that I'm just gonna stick with two. Oh, is it just one?
Oh, this is something that could be answered by the astronaut database. It's only one, and it was the French. Félicette the cat, who, yes, I'll show us a picture. There's Félicette, a little big there. Félicette the cat. So now we can call out one more winner from the audience. Who's won a prize?
The audience member who just won the prize is Truman Brooks. Truman, congratulations.
Well done. All right. Next question.
Great.
What year was the Soyuz rocket first flown?
Soyuz first flew. Are we talking about just straight up R7? Well, Soyuz as an R7 variant, or the actual Soyuz version would have been, I think about 1964 would have been when the actual Soyuz flew.
Yeah, I'm going to give that to you because there's... Oh, no, that's wrong. Oh, God. That's the wrong sound, everyone. He gets many of these. Yes, many corrects to override that. Yeah, there's a couple of variants. Anything from 64 to 66 is like correct because this question is non-specific. Okay, this is another human spaceflight question about recent history. What was the most recent failed flight of a crewed Russian rocket? So Russian rocket taking people up, but the flight fails. Which one was it?
MS-10, and it was a Soyuz flight in October 28th.
That's correct. Okay, here's a much more difficult one. How many moons are there in our solar system in total?
Someone's getting the prize.
It's multiple choice.
Okay,
I was being a little tough there. It's multiple choice. Is it A, 203, B, 181, or C, 72?
I was actually thinking in the 70s, so I'm going to go with my gut instinct, 72.
Oh no, it's actually amazingly it's 181, and it might be 183 because we're investigating some moons of a couple planets.
And if Pluto's not a planet, it might be a moon. Just say it.
Oh yeah, so we have another winner, which is
and
great.
The winner of the giveaway is Jawas bin Stali.
Woohoo!
Congratulations, Jawas. Okay, now this is the final question.
Oh God.
Let's. Oh, by the way, this is a moon of our. This is Phobos. I wanted to.
That's no moon.
I like Phobos because of Doom. Okay. This is a picture of an old Baskin Robbins. Oh, it's mirrored. Here we go. Of an old Baskin Robbins. Now, what flavor of ice cream was created in 1969 by Baskin Robbins to celebrate the moon landing?
I mean, there's got to be some correlation to like, Snoopy or something like that, or some like weird, or the Eagle, or like
it's 1969. So you're getting in the
Armstrong, or like, I'm gonna say Eagle Cream. Final answer.
Oh, I like horrible. I like it, but it's not the answer. This was not really one we expected anyone to get. The answer was actually lunar cheesecake, which is
that looks
out of the way.
Sweet.
That's lunar cheesecake. This is also, look, I've got one more picture of lunar cheesecake. It kind of has like, it's very interesting. So everybody, thank you, Tim Dodd, so much. That is our game. We have one.
Do we have
winner.
a last winner? Do we have a final winner?
We do. We do. It is. And I swear I did not have anything to do with this. The name showed up randomly from our beautiful volunteer moderators. The winner is none other than Casper Stanley.
Casper, how'd you know that? Casper, you're too young for all this stuff.
All right.
Well, it was a random
we will be contacting all the winners and letting you know what you're getting, and we will ship it out to you post this event. Jamie, Tim, you were both geniuses in your own right, and you both support space so much. This was really fun. I think this game show idea has legs. I don't know.
Yes, thank you, Tim, for being patient with our just like being like, here's a game show, and you don't even know what you're doing until you get there. But it was fun. Yeah, and you got like probably like 85-90%, like pretty solid, man. I
better than I ever did in school. Let me tell you,
ridiculous questions in there.
Yeah. Tim, just really quick, thank you for all you do. We've all been friends for so long. It's really great to watch your coverage and your live streams, and you're doing so much for outreach in our world. So thank you, Tim, and thank you for being part of this.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, it's just been so fun to be friends with so many great people in the spaceflight community too. That's the thing that I love about it the most, is just the community aspect too. So thank you, Robin.
No problem. All right, guys. We were going to be moving on with our program. Goodbye, Jamie. Goodbye, Tim. It looks like MaryLiz is frozen in time. I told you guys that time has no meaning. And I would like to stick by that statement. I do not know where my colleague is. She is lost in cyberspace. But we're going to go on and carry on with the program. Two of our guests, as with events involving astronauts, future astronauts, past astronauts, it's hard to get a ton of astronauts together in a time frame. And this program was originally supposed to be 90 minutes, the amount of time it takes to orbit the Earth. We've already gone way beyond that time, which is okay. It's funny because Elon wanted to be here, but we did not let him because we wanted to stick to the time frame. So sorry, Elon, we went over anyway. But we're going to go ahead and move on to our next panelist, who we pre-recorded with this morning, Glen Vries, who recently flew with Blue Origin, and William Shatner. So this interview was taped earlier with MaryLiz and I, and it was a really wonderful interaction with Glen. We really love him. He's a really great, inspiring dude. So let's bring up Glen's video.
Thank you so much for getting up. Glen, it is such an honor to have you here at our event today. Thank you so much for getting up bright and early and time traveling here. So you just got back from such an incredible adventure. You went to space on the NS-18 mission with Blue Origin. And I got to ask you, what does it feel like to be back on the surface of our planet?
The trip was incredible. I think I left with a bunch of conviction about certain things around education and our planet and just how important space can be. And I came back with more conviction than I thought was possible. I got like a new data point, changed my state. It was amazing.
Wow. Now, Glen, what was your motivator for signing up for this mission and pursuing it?
Yeah, so I've always been somebody who loved like the spectrum of science, everything from particle physics to cosmology. And I kind of professionally wound up getting very interested in biology, biochemistry, and then human health and life sciences. But the kid who was reading every book about every planet, every rocket that he could get his hands on is still in me. And so when something was at the center of the Venn diagram of my, I'll actually say obsession, with things about space, but also something that could be relevant to how we thought about inspiring people about STEM and what I think will be great emerging technologies from like the new, I mean this in a good way, space race, and being able to be part of fueling that. I mean, it was like right in the center of everything. And I just jumped at the opportunity.
Glen, I just read that you spent the majority of your life working towards equity and access in healthcare.
Yeah.
And in a recent interview, you said that now you think that you want to put that same kind of energy towards democratizing space, opening up that access. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so I actually think people don't always appreciate how technologies kind of have these emerging effects. Everybody, one of the things I do in healthcare is we look to diagnose and treat people where they are, right? To me, that's part of equity and access. Can we get the right therapy to the right patient at the right time anywhere? And a piece of that, just as an example, are sensors. So things that people wear that show their activity, and you can kind of impart their cognitive or their behavioral activities as part of that. It's biologically super interesting. The technology that you're wearing on your wrist and your iPhone was like what was used in the Apollo program to look at the attitude of ships. It's the same piezoelectric sensor. It just has now become something that's part of medicine. When I think about space technologies, I think about like problems I care about on Earth, like access to clean water, right? We're going to create things that will help us solve problems in unexpected ways. The same way particle physics leads to cell phones, which leads to social networks, maybe sometimes not for good, but a lot of time for good. I mean, all these things build. And I just feel like the democratization of space is about letting people get the overview effect that I know we're ostensibly here to talk about, but also to create technologies that really solve problems on Earth and benefit everybody on the planet.
Something that always comes up in the space industry and community is, where are we finding water? Is it on the moon? Is it on Mars? Is it on Enceladus, Europa? But water here on Earth is becoming a dire issue.
Yeah.
Can you give us your take on that? Because I know that your work is heavily involved in water access, and I think we'd love to know what that situation is right now.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, it's not even an emerging problem. We have a problem with water. I mean, we're maybe doing a little bit better than we've done in parts of human history, but still, you have about 1 in 9 people on the planet just don't have easy access to clean water, and that is like the bottom of the hierarchy of needs for life as it has evolved on our planet, and probably given the abundance of oxygen and hydrogen in the universe, other places too. We need it for food. We need it for everything in our lives. It's required by the ecosystem and plants that are around us. And so just making sure that resource, which on Earth, and I got such a visceral sense of this, more than I expected, seeing it from up there, it is a zero-sum game. there is a fixed amount of the elements that are required for water and water itself on the planet. And maybe we can shift that mix of hydrogen and oxygen to water, but there's a limit to that too. And so I feel like we've got to reach out. I'm not sure where we're going to find it, but we all know it's out there. And get humanity to be able to find more resources. And as actually, I think Chris Bosshausen, one of my crewmates on NS-18, puts very eloquently, figure out through things like space exploration, how to really make resources on Earth go further, how to think about reclaiming water and purifying water in new ways. I went up to space for 10 minutes. We didn't need a lot of water, but if you go for longer than that, there's no faucet. And so we're going to invent things that can actually help us in communities on Earth that need to do a better job of reclaiming water and cleaning it. And I'm not talking about small communities. I'm talking about New York City too, where I'm living.
I have to say, I'm so grateful for the way that the perspective that you had prior to going to space, and then now sharing this perspective after having seen it and experiencing it so viscerally. I've been researching the overview effect for years and talking to Frank White about his research, and that is part of it. It is that you have intellectual knowledge. We all know we live on a planet, right? But we go to space, people go to space, less than 600 of us, and we look back, and I think that knowledge just gets integrated viscerally, So does that resonate with you, and can you speak to that moment?
It really does. And look, I was over the carbon line for a very short amount of time compared to a lot of people. But I also think I had a super interesting experience, which I honestly was not intellectually nor emotionally prepared for, which is in New Shepard. You're like in one of those movies or educational animations where you see something and you just keep zooming out and out and out and out. And to see things go from human scale, you can see a cactus, you can see a line on a road that's separating lanes, and then actually see patterns emerge and change, and weather fronts, systems that you normally see even from airplane altitude, all of a sudden are accelerating and going below you, and seeing shadows under the clouds at angles you're not expecting. And then all of a sudden there's this curved horizon, and you go from blue sky to black sky. And then 8 minutes later, you're going back through that same thing in reverse. The human body evolution has designed us to work in a 1G environment, and going to space is something where clearly we're learning how to live there, but it's not what we're set up for. I'm not sure if my human brain, designed for certain perspectives on Earth, was really ready to see this. And actually going through that is what I mean by getting new data points that are so far off the curve you didn't realize you could think about it. I really do think it's something that can and will change people. And that's why, whether it's water.org, whether it's Carnegie Mellon University, like everything I think about for equity, access, healthcare, education, water, like this experience will give people conviction and perspective that I think as many people that we can give it to, that we should. And high school students, instead of going on Circle Line around Manhattan like I did as I was a kid, one day getting to go to space and seeing that will help us be a better civilization. That's what excites me about the travel for people part of space.
We need to get some students on these spacecraft immediately, I think.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. And again, the privilege of going for people like me and Chris is going, and for fueling that curve. I mean, we're going to put, maybe 100 people in space next year. It took us 60 years to get 600 up there. That's that Moore's Law curve. And that's what's so exciting about where we are now, that we're, I think, about to climb that exponentially.
All right. Well, now let's put on our Star Trek communicators for one moment here, because our audience will be very mad at MaryLiz and I if we do not ask what it was like to fly with William Shatner.
Yeah. So honestly, two things. One, I think it shouldn't be lost on anybody that talk about science fiction becoming science fact. The guy who played this iconic character for 55 years has now actually been to space. I hope inspires everybody who, like myself, was inspired by science fiction in their lives. Bill also is a wonderful person. I consider him a very close friend now that we went through this thing together. And I'll tell you, you need scientists and you need engineers, but I think it's so important to have people like Bill who have spent their lives learning how to express themselves and understand and communicate emotion. that is going to give people the complete understanding of space and how we can, as a civilization, benefit from doing this. And so it was such a privilege to have somebody like him on our flight to help us all as a crew have a voice. It was just incredible. And he's really fun.
My last question before I throw it back to my colleague. Would you fly again? And one, would you like to fly in another spacecraft? And two, would you like to fly again? A little bit further.
It's no secret. For the last 9 years, I've had a Virgin Galactic seat reservation. Right. That was my gift to myself on my 40th birthday. So hopefully I'll get to fly again. I can't imagine anybody who goes to space is like, no, thanks. I'm full. No more space. Like, yeah, I would love that. Right now, my priority is advocacy. I really think it's important that everybody understands why space is important, why its democratization is important, why this is about problems on Earth. And so my plan is to shout that from the mountaintops. That's what I'm working on.
All I can say is thank you for that. And, you've got two communicators here, storytellers here. If you ever need support in that mission, let us support you.
We will tell people that you're going to space. You can guarantee that.
And help you communicate.
It's great to talk to you. I look forward to more in the future.
Thank you so much, Glenn. Have a wonderful day back on the planet.
Thank you, Glenn. And thank you for the time. And we will catch up with you soon.
Sounds great.
I'm back.
That was really great. We taped that at 9 a.m. For MaryLiz, it was 6 a.m. Glenn had the most energy. And he was.
Yeah, I would say that's probably true.
He's a really great guy. I'm really happy that folks like Glenn are joining our community and being very vocal about planet Earth and the environment.
Yeah.
We hope that he sticks around. Like he said, he has a flight on Virgin booked. So he's going to be sticking around in our community and industry. And we're happy to have you, Glenn. Thank you.
All right. So the next, we're going to time travel once again. We're going to teleport another amazing astronaut into the event. Michael López-Alegría is a former NASA astronaut, veteran of 3 space shuttle missions and 1 International Space Station mission. Now, he is a private astronaut and he's the VP of Business Development at Axiom. And they're a fairly new private spaceflight company doing very, very bold things in the industry, like creating their own space station, private space station. So I'm very, very grateful to Michael. And as you'll see in this video that we're about to queue up, when Robin and I interviewed him, we talked a bit to this, but he obviously has such a unique perspective, having flown on so many different crafts and being a NASA astronaut and now a private astronaut, pushing that industry forward. So without further ado.
Absolutely.
Michael, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to talk to you because I feel like you have such a unique perspective on this new era of space exploration. So I think it was back in 2006, is that right, that you flew to space with Anousheh Ansari. I was just reading her book and, you had a major role there in introducing a private passenger to the International Space Station, which is a huge deal. And I know a lot has changed since then. I'd like to know from you, how has your perspective changed on this era of private space travel? And how have you seen changes just in the industry as a whole?
Great question, MaryLiz. I would say the short answer is 180 degrees. When I found out that I would be flying with what they call spaceflight participant back in probably 2004, maybe 5, I wasn't too thrilled with the idea. ISS is still under construction, and it's a place for professional astronauts, kind of what you might expect from a U.S. Navy / NASA person my whole life. And I think what really changed it for me was Anousheh herself. I mean, she came across in such a professional yet kind and sharing way that I first allowed myself to consider the possibility this would be a good thing. And then flying with her and seeing her connect to so many people on the ground who otherwise would not have been paying attention to human spaceflight really turned a key in my brain, thinking, this is not just okay, it's important, and it's a really big part of the future of human spaceflight. So after leaving NASA and working for the Commercial Spaceflight Federation and sort of, promoting and lauding the idea of private human spaceflight, it's, an incredible honor to be participating in it now.
Michael, such a seasoned astronaut and professional in the space industry, what lessons are you taking from that experience as you build Axiom and as this first AX-1 mission approaches early next year? What are those main lessons that you're taking from your career into Axiom's vision?
Yeah, that's a great question too, Robin. I think it's a little hard to put a finger on it. It's a bit like leadership. Leadership is really best learned by experience, by first following and watching and observing, and then having it sort of flow through your veins. And I think flying in space is a bit like that. You can prepare incredibly well with technical training, with behavioral health training, with physical training, but going there and living there and understanding what it's like, it just gives you this sort of sixth sense in a way of what to do. And I'm hoping that I'm giving those lessons to my three crewmates, all of whom obviously have not flown in space before. And I think that, it gives NASA and it gives the customers, my crewmates, a little bit of a sense of we're in good hands. This guy understands what it takes. And my goal is that then they, perhaps not by taking other people to space, but they can sort of reflect that experience onto more people. It's one thing if a NASA astronaut flies, they can go talk to school kids or this business group or that set of university students, but people who have the kinds of means that are necessary, unfortunately, now to go to space have a much bigger footprint. And so them sort of spreading, evangelizing, if you will, that idea of the goodness of human spaceflight, I think is a great advantage and something that I'm looking forward to.
Now, with AX-1, an entirely private flight with private astronauts, if you had to underline two major components of preparing for a mission like this, company-wise or individual-wise, what are the big things that go into the preparation for a mission like this that will be historic?
I think one thing that sets this mission apart from any of the other private space flights so far is that, we'll have better than a week on orbit on the ISS, which is an amazing laboratory to conduct meaningful research. And so preparing, finding the research, integrating it, making sure you've got all the equipment to do it, the procedures, training for it, all that is a dimension that is really, it's much more like a NASA mission than a private mission, because these guys all have a raft of experiments that they're taking with them. And I think just the preparation, which starts from the concept, how do we find principal investigators who are interested in using the unique environment of microgravity, et cetera, all the way to actually conducting experiments, collecting the samples, bringing them home and having them be analyzed and have a paper written about it, I think is a unique aspect of this private mission. And I guess the second thing is just, we're training at SpaceX, we're training at NASA, and we're doing our damnedest to not stick out as private astronauts, but rather to be like any other astronauts that go through that training. So, be professional, be punctual, be prepared, and be ready to perform, because it's a short mission. We don't have all that many chances to take a mulligan, and so we want to do it right the first time.
Right. Now, you brought up microgravity, and I think our entire community and the world is excited to have a new space station to travel to. Post ISS, the Chinese are already building their station. They have a crew up there already. And it seems that the next player to have a space station will be Axiom. Can you give us an update on where the company is in developing that space station and those modules? And when can we start seeing those modules going up to space?
You may have read in the news recently that our contractor, Thales Alenia Space Italia, is already, as they say, cutting metal. So we are in the process of building the first two modules. They're called AXH for Hub 1 and 2. They're virtually identical. They'll look a little bit like Node 1, 2, or 3, except a bit longer. So they'll have two axial docking ports and 4 radial, either berthing ports or docking ports. And we plan to bring the module, the shell, if you will, once they're constructed, to Houston to begin integration in the beginning of 2023. That's when we'll put all the avionics and all the outfitting that goes inside for a launch toward the ends of 2024. So it's pretty exciting. We're through what they call preliminary design review stage of those two modules and heading towards CDR, critical design review. So things are going apace. You know, the company is growing super fast, mostly from engineers, and everybody's, you know, got a lot of work to do.
One last question before I throw it to MaryLiz, because I know it's on everyone's mind, and they're going to kill me if I don't ask. What's the deal with Tom Cruise?
I can say that we're in conversations with him and his team.
Okay.
Nothing's been finalized, but it's a work in progress.
We will take that. Thank you, Michael, for sharing that.
Yes, and thank you so much for all the work that you all are doing, because it's really paving the way. I mean, it's giving us the vision. You know, it's one thing to see private astronauts do what NASA astronauts have previously done, and it's another thing to see the vision for where this is headed and why we're doing this. I know I saw a mock-up of the Axiom station, and there was a gorgeous window, and I'm so happy to see, you know, emphasis put on that window from the get-go, right? You talked also about how Anusha and other private spaceflight participants have this ability to connect with more people, a broader audience, to share this experience. And so, you know, this event also is celebrating the overview effect and what happens when astronauts go to space and return and are changed in some way. Now, I've heard you personally speak about this a little bit before, but I would love for you to share what that experience was like for you and why you think that would be important for other people to experience and share in their own way.
That's interesting, MaryLiz. Last night, literally, I had a dream that I was back in space. You know, as we get closer and closer, this becomes more and more of something in your subconscious. And I remember literally feeling the overview effect and thinking to myself, so this feels very familiar to me. This is what I've been talking about for the last 8 years. And it's, you know, it's hard to describe, as I'm sure you've seen me stumble around the words before, but it's a sense of connectivity to not only the planet itself and acknowledging its fragility, but also the people on it. And you know, you're very far away from it in many ways, but at the same time, you're, you know, 400 kilometers. I mean, you're actually pretty darn close to it, but you feel this sense of detachment, almost like you're looking at, you know, when you were a kid and you had the ant farm, you know, that you could look through horizontally and you could see what's going on in a much bigger perspective. And you feel this sense of, we just need to do a little bit better job getting along with each other. We're all, you know, it's a corny phrase, but we're all in the same spaceship Earth. It's the only one we have. And we need to figure out how to live with each other better and while taking care of that spaceship a little bit better. So I think the importance of that, again, is that when I think that and I feel that, and I've had the opportunity to share that with a, you know, a reasonably large audience from, you know, over time. But these folks, like Anusha, like Charles Simoni, like my crew on AX1, when they come back, they'll have American, Canadian, Israeli audiences that are like dying to hear what they have to say. And when they start, again, evangelizing or almost proselytizing about how important it is for us to do better, to live as one humankind on this planet, I think that's all to the good.
Very well said, Michael. Really love Michael, and he really, really does put, you know, those words together in a way that has meaning. Empathy and sympathy with one another, caring for one another. Such an important message here in space, that in space exploration, that we need to carry with us as we carry on this space journey, is to make sure that we're taking care of each other. And I really appreciate Michael's words.
Amen, Robin. That's what this is all about, right? It's not like trying to become what we need to become when we get to Mars, but it's also how do we just use that thought experiment to become that, to have that perspective now as we go out. Right. I think for me, that's what I'm most excited about, is this idea of bringing the overview effect down to Earth, is so that we can begin to take care of our planet and ourselves right now. And then when we go out, as we go, it's a conscious and thoughtful effort. All right, so thank you all so much for sticking around for this event. It's been so amazing. I am really, really honored to finally introduce our keynote speaker, the man of the hour, Frank White. He's such a good friend that sometimes I forget to properly introduce him, and he has so much to share. So I just want to kind of quickly say, welcome back, Frank. Hello.
Hey, Frank, welcome back.
Hello.
Your party is going well.
I'm enjoying it.
So, Frank, everybody knows at this point that you are this modern day philosopher that I know this is you're too humble for this. You're going to say no and bat me away. But you are this modern day philosopher that provided language to something that was happening to astronauts. But we know now that you're the author of the Overview Effect, that you have a new edition, which is full of all sorts of additional interviews with astronauts, with over 35 years now of interviews.
35.
But as Dylan said, that you've authored or co-authored 14 books, right? This is always surprising to me, because it's like, we know you as the author of the Overview Effect, but you've written books on such a range of topics, from space exploration to climate change. I discovered your work, as you know, through the Planetary Collective's Overview film, and then the full-length Planetary. Learning that way, it just drew me in, and I started to read the Overview Effect. And then, of course, as you know, the rest is history, because you reached out to me, and we've formed a partnership and a friendship. And I'm so grateful for your contribution to the world and my life.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, MaryLiz, and thank you, Robin. And I really want to thank everybody who has worked on bringing this event together. I knew about MaryLiz and Robin and Will, but now I found out there's an army of volunteers here, and I can't thank everybody, but I do appreciate it, and I appreciate all the panelists, everybody who's been here. I'm kind of having a William Shatner moment, The first thing he said when he got out of the capsule was, "I'm at a loss for words." People who know me know that that's not true. I'm not at a loss for words, but I'm very close to it. Anyway, I did agree to give a talk, so I'm going to do that today.
Please go for it. And I just want to say really quickly that to the audience, if you have questions for Frank, please start putting them in the Q&A or the chat now, because after Frank gives his speech, we're going to do a Q&A with everyone. Okay. Without further ado, Frank, you have the floor.
Great. Well, thanks again to everyone for being here. And before I get into the heart of the talk, I want to say two different things just to kind of get into the mood. I want to start with a story that my first cousin, Anne, tells me, and I think she's here. I hope she's here. That she tells me that when we were 5 years old, we were sitting in the parking lot of a grocery store waiting for our mothers to come out. And out of the blue, I turned to her and I said, "Anne, I hope you know we can't stay on this planet forever. We're going to have to leave. We're going to have to go elsewhere. Planets don't last forever, And I don't remember that, but I believe Anne. She tells the truth. And there's kind of a new punchline. Many of you have heard this before, that I've told this story. But going back to what Dylan said, in thinking about that story today, I realized I have many faults, but I'm pretty consistent. I was saying that when I was 5 years old, and I'm saying it today. Some of us are going to have to leave this planet, not to desert it, not to leave it behind, but to help it and preserve it, and to create a better environment on Earth. The other thing I'd like to say is I was just, as luck would have it, reading about President Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. And I thought I'd like to rise to the oratory of President Lincoln. And I thought, you know, that starts with 77 years ago. And I thought, oh, I could start with 4.5 billion years ago, the universe brought forth a new planet, conceived in beauty and dedicated to the prospect that all life is cosmic, or something like that. And I thought it was a great opening. And Donna, my wife, thought it was a great opening, but I couldn't think of what to say after that. So I decided to go back to my original talk. But the other thing about Lincoln's speech was he was so incredibly brief that a photographer who was there to take a picture of him speaking did not have time to set up his camera while the president was speaking. I'd love to equal Lincoln in brevity. It's probably going to be a bit longer than that, but I'm going to try to keep it brief so we can have a Q&A. So let's think about the overview effect. Well, it's approaching middle age, and it's about 35 years old, and it's not having a midlife crisis. I'm excited about that. I mean, in fact, I think the overview effect as an idea is hitting its stride right now, as you've heard from everybody. And I'll get into that more in a moment. But the idea has had its ups and downs over the years, but it's really on an upward trajectory now. I think the overview effect has been launched. And we're here to mark the 4th edition of this book, which really started it all, started the movement to bring the overview effect down to Earth. And I'd like to go back and just share with you how it really got started, because interestingly, it had nothing to do with astronauts. You may find that surprising, but at first it did not. It started in the 70s and 80s when I was getting involved with Jerry O'Neill and the work of the Space Studies Institute. And Jerry had this radical idea that once we had escaped planet Earth, or the gravity well, as we would call it, we shouldn't really be building technological human civilizations on other planetary surfaces. No, we should be building freestanding communities between the Earth and the Moon, using extraterrestrial materials. This was an amazing idea to me, and I was obsessed with it, to be quite honest. And so one day I was flying cross country on a job that had nothing to do with space, but I was thinking about what it would be like to live in an O'Neill community. I was looking down at the Earth, and it suddenly hit me. If I lived in an O'Neill community, I would always have an overview. I would see the Earth as a whole system where everything is interconnected and interrelated, as the various astronauts have talked about today. And the term overview effect came into my mind right away. And when I landed, I realized I had a hypothesis, but how could I gather data for it? There were no people living in O'Neill communities. There still aren't, unfortunately, but I believe there will be. Well, I decided to start talking to astronauts as proxies for these future space people. And something extraordinary happened when I started talking to astronauts. You see, I did not consider the overview effect to be extraordinary. I expected for these O'Neill people that seeing the Earth in the sky would be ordinary. And they would just know intuitively and experientially things we're struggling to understand on the surface. They would understand that the Earth is a whole system where everything is related. No borders, no boundaries, the thin atmosphere. They would just know it. But when I started interviewing astronauts like Nicole, Michael López-Alegría, I realized, no. Every astronaut I'm talking to was born on the surface. They have gone into orbit or suborbital flight or to the moon. And it's extraordinary. It's a bit shocking for them. It's a shift in their consciousness. It's a shift in their identity and their worldview. And it was also very obvious that it was a positive experience. And so the hypothesis changed from being focused on future space people and really being focused on Earth people, on us. If we could bring this astronaut awareness down to Earth, wouldn't that change the nature of human existence on planet Earth? And that was the seeds of an idea that I've promulgated ever since, which is, I believe that experiencing the overview effect should be a human right. I'm not specifying how we get it to everyone, but every human being should have the experience. And William Shatner said that when he came out of the capsule. He said exactly the same thing. So as I wrote the first edition of the book, it just became clear that this was the direction that we had to go in. What really gets to me today, what touches me deeply, is the feeling that really we do have, as Dylan said, we have a social movement. We have a global movement to bring the overview effect down to Earth. And that in itself is not directly about space. That is about our planet. Back in those days, when the overview effect was an infant, I dreamed about this moment that really started in July, in my mind, that, we started seeing commercial spaceflight. It was obvious in writing the book that there were two ways to bring the overview effect down to Earth: commercial spaceflight, so that we could get ordinary people like you and me out there, and virtual reality or some kind of simulation. And those flights have happened now. And we had Glen and Cyan here and Beth. And it's a new moment. I don't think we fully grasped it, but I think it was mentioned earlier. MaryLiz and Loretta and I competed with Cyan for that seat. And we lost. And we all agreed she was hands down the best candidate. And we weren't angry or upset or bitter about it. We were happy for her, and we still are. And there are two things about that. One is we had the chutzpah to think we could be in that seat. We believed it. A year ago, you couldn't have said that. There was no opportunity. That's one thing I would say about it. The other thing I would say is, I don't like the term ordinary people, but in a way, all of us are the new astronaut corps. Everyone here, everyone listening, everybody watching, you don't have to be a NASA astronaut. You don't have to be a Roscosmos cosmonaut. You can be you. I think that was stated earlier. I think maybe Cyan talked about be yourself. And you could be one of the people who could experience the overview effect. So, the astronauts have consistently said to me, you don't go to space for yourself. And we're all in this together. And that's true. And I didn't write the book for myself. I wrote it for you. I wrote it for us. One person does not write a book alone. Maybe one person types the words, but you can't do it by yourself. And nobody creates a theory or a social movement by themselves. They do it with help. And I'm sitting here, I have so many people to thank, and I just can't do it. There's too many people. But it starts with my parents. It starts with my mother, who gave me the book Stars, which started me on a love affair with astronomy. And my dad, who was involved in aerial photography. And I bet that had a big impact on me. And, you know, through the difficult years, there were a whole host of people, friends and family, who supported me when I did not think this day would come. And again, I can't thank all of them, but I really have to thank my wife, Donna. We recently celebrated our 26th wedding anniversary. And I don't know who's here and who's not here. I don't know if Donna's here. We're in different rooms. But, you know, Donna and I really show that people with different perspectives can make a team. If you've read my book, you know that I talk about Terrans, Solarians, and Galaxians. I'm a Solarian, I'm a space person. Donna's a Terran, and yet she has supported me throughout. We only have one prenup before we got married 26 years ago. That was, if I had a chance to go into space, she would not try to stop me. Now she's a little nervous. She was pretty confident 26 years ago. That was not going to be an issue. I don't know which family members are here. I just want to say to Josh, Ruth, Liz, Nikki, and Jenny, thank you for all of your support over the years. And, you know, I have to thank the publishers who keep publishing the book, even though it doesn't make any money. It's totally irrational. And yet they think there's something in it. They know there's something in it. And that's Houghton Mifflin, AIAA, and of course, Multiverse Publishing. Dylan Taylor and Will Henry have shepherded the 4th edition to the point where you can buy it. As I've said many times before, I want to make it clear, I'm not the hero of this story. I'm the chronicler.
I love that.
Heroes are the astronauts.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank them, first of all, for being interviewed by me, and so we could document their story. But let's be clear. Everyone who's gotten on top of a rocket has risked their lives in order to experience the overview effect and bring the overview message back to the rest of us. They're the real heroes.
And in complete agreement, Frank. And on behalf of everyone listening, thank you for giving us a way to express our love for space, and giving us a community to be a part of as well. We're really grateful.
Thank you, Robin.
Of course. And one quick story. A couple of years ago, we had IAC in Washington, D.C. It was the last time we were all together. And I came in to see Frank's speech at IAC, and he was talking about the modern day space communicators that are coming behind him. And one of those people is MaryLiz right here, my colleague, a close friend of mine. She led the way on this event, and she did an incredible job. So I wanted to see Frank highlight MaryLiz. I wanted to take this moment, highlight Frank highlighting MaryLiz. And it was such a cool moment. I took a photo of Frank, and then I turned over and I took a photo of Ryan Chalinsky and MaryLiz, who were standing next to each other, documenting you, which was a full circle moment for everyone. So it's great to have you here, Frank, and it's great to be a part of this event with everyone in this community. The astronauts are the heroes. The people who sit on top of rockets, you're all insane, one, but you're heroes. And you make space exploration possible.
Frank, we would like to do, if you have some time, a Q&A with the audience. We have many
Sure.
great questions already. So, but the first one, I saw this specific question that actually ties in with a story, Robin, that you have, because I think I know the answer, but I may be wrong. So I want to plant the seed that I'm referring to your connection to Edgar Mitchell, Robin. I'm going to read the question now,
Sure.
ask Frank, and then we could tie it all in. But it is from YouTube, a question on our YouTube chat. And Cassandra Fernandez asks, if you could choose one person, Frank, to experience the overview effect, and I think that means like one person, maybe one kind of person, who would it be and why?
Well, I'm going to say a generic person because it would be almost impossible to highlight any one person. But I would go back to something Edgar Mitchell said to me about the experience. And I think we saw it with William Shatner. Edgar said he felt like the difference in what happened to him and his Apollo colleagues was focused more on how open people were to the experience. I believe that the further away you go from the Earth and the longer you spend in outer space, the more powerful the experience will be. But on the other hand, the human in the loop is so important. And Edgar was open to that experience. And he went to the moon. William Shatner was open to the experience, and he was there for 8 minutes. And I think openness, I would choose the most open person to have the experience, because I think it would be really powerful. And, you know, it's important to know in terms of bringing the overview effect down to Earth, Edgar Mitchell's organization, the Institute of Noetic Sciences, is going strong. Claudia Wells is here today, I think. And bringing that experience of Edgar Mitchell to people on a daily basis. And I'm hoping people are getting the message that if they want to go, then the best way to have the experience is to be available to it.
Right.
And I think we talked about that earlier today.
Frank, thank you so much for bringing up Edgar. He's no longer with us, but if he were, he would be part of today's events in a very big way. When I was a young reporter, I barely touched space, but I got to meet Edgar Mitchell at his home in West Palm Beach, Florida. I went to visit him, and we were mainly talking about what Glen was talking about earlier. We're in a water crisis. We're in all sorts of environmental issues right now. Edgar is an environmentalist, like thoroughly. And a lot of that comes from his experience in space and seeing the Earth. And he's not here, but we're going to read our favorite quote from him, which you all know. You develop an instant global consciousness, a people orientation, an intense dissatisfaction with the state of the world, and a compulsion to do something about it. From out there on the moon, international politics looks so petty. You want to grab a politician by the scruff of the neck and drag him 250,000 miles out and say, look at that, you son of a bitch. And if Edgar was here, he would repeat that sentiment over and over again. And we were friends before he passed away. And I'm happy that we get to bring him up today and talk about him. And I hope we keep talking about Edgar and his ideas. And Frank, thank you so much for bringing him back into the conversation and making sure that Edgar still stays relevant as the generations go on.
Thank you both. And the next question in the Q&A is really, really interesting. And actually, I'm pretty sure, unless it's another Nick Jones here, that this is one of my musical collaborators. Hello, Nick. He asks, I really like the way he asks this. He says, are there adjectives that recur when you reflect on the overview effect, Frank?
If I may, I would like to expand that to words rather than adjectives. Beauty is one of the words that I hear. It's really interesting to me that the astronauts talk about the beauty of the Earth and often talk about it as if we haven't seen the beauty of the planet. I mean, anybody can walk outside their house if they live, you know, in a rural area and walk into the forest and see the beauty of our planet. But there's something about seeing it from a distance that apparently the colors and the things that they see are just heightened. The sense of the beauty is heightened. And I believe that has something to do with weightlessness and its effect on the brain, but that hasn't been established yet. You know, fragility is brought up a lot. And there's been a discussion in the community about, is the Earth fragile? It's been here 4.5 billion years. Is it really fragile? Or is it our civilization that is fragile? You know, and I think it really is our civilization that is most endangered by what human beings are doing on the Earth. The other, you know, the other word that comes up over and over again is experience. And the fact that this was touched on earlier, Sandy Magnus said, I asked her, what did you get from being in outer space? And she said, the difference between intellectual knowledge and experiential knowledge. We know so many things that the astronauts tell us, but they know it in a different way. So those are a few words. I could go on, but you know,
that's beautiful.
Many words that come up.
And I love seeing in the chats all the words that other people are saying recur for them. Awe, you know, I saw Nick put gnosis, but beauty, Gaia, fragility came up a lot, life. It's so interesting to see how people interpret things.
I have a question, Frank. I wanted to ask about SETI and our role in the universe, and the fact that right now we're kind of alone, and that's our perception of the universe, is that we're alone right now. Will that change? Or is there an overview effect in the form of knowing that there's another civilization out there, that we're not alone, that we have neighbors? Does that sort of change our consciousness in a way?
I think so. I mean, I think it's possible that it will. In the following sense, one of the things that astronauts consistently say, and it was repeated today, look to your left, look to your right. That person, you may see them as very different because of their background or their skin color or their gender, but compared to what we see when we look from orbit, we realize that we're all really ultimately the same as seen from a distance. What binds us together as human beings is far greater than what separates us.
Thank you.
If we knew there were other intelligences in the universe, it seems likely that we would realize we're not so different. We're all human. There's other intelligences out there, and we really are one in being human.
All right, we have so many questions, and they're all so good. But this one I picked out because it just popped out at me, and it's a unique question. And I wonder, Frank, if you ever heard about this in your multitude of interviews. This does remind me of something that Anusha and Zari told me, but the question is from Andrew C. on YouTube, and he asks, is shame ever mentioned as a feeling associated with the overview effect? Like maybe a feeling that we haven't done enough for our planet?
The word, no, not the word. I think that cognitive dissonance is a word that describes what many astronauts feel. Because you see, what the overview effect brings out is that seen from a distance, the planet is unified, it's serene, and it's beautiful. And yet, if you came from the surface to orbit, you know what's going on the surface. You can't not know that. So there's incredible diversity, but you see it in the context of unity. And yet at the same time, I think Ron Garan said, when he saw how beautiful the Earth was from a distance, he wanted to bring that same order and beauty to the surface. And so I think that's why so many astronauts come back with a heightened sense of responsibility to do a better job. You know, Bill Shatner, when he was interviewed recently after coming back, said he didn't say he was ashamed, he said he was sad. And I think he was sad because of the realization of where we are and how much work we have to do right by planet Earth.
You know, that is, Anusha Ansari, that is kind of what she said to me, was I felt like when I got back to the planet, like I just wanted to shake everybody and wake them up. I was depressed. Depressed was the word. It wasn't shame, but it was wanting to show everybody what she had experienced with a fervor. So we're going to wrap up with one last question, and then we'll say our thank yous. But this question I think is very, very timely. Comes from Mike Attorney in Zoom. He says, it's great to see you honored in this way, Frank. And then he goes on to say what I think is on a lot of our minds right now. Frank, I know you've been really thinking hard about a lot of this, but he says, there's a negative trend beginning to develop that labels recent private space flights as joyrides for the rich and privileged and a waste of resources. That the time, energy, and money required for those flights should be focused instead on fixing problems down here on Earth. Without pushback, there's the possibility this image problem could worsen with time, affecting the overall mission. Do you see a need for a coordinated marketing effort beyond individuals talking about their personal space experience to reinforce a public attitude that these kinds of flights are indeed about saving the Earth and not abandoning it?
Yeah, absolutely. I know Mike. Hi, Mike. Thank you. I did not feed him that question, but as you know, MaryLiz, we have established an organization called the Human Space Program. And one of the initiatives that we want to undertake is exactly that. And we are working on it. Time doesn't allow to get into a lot of details about it. But yes, we do need to do that. And one of the things I've realized is that when I hear someone like the Secretary General of the UN say something like that, it's a joyride for the rich and we shouldn't be doing it, rather than saying, oh, he doesn't understand, what's important is the people saying that are seeing these flights through their history, their worldview, their knowledge. It's up to us to give them a different set of information. So I see these flights, and what I see is more and more people experiencing the overview effect, experiencing this change in consciousness, and that will contribute to solving problems on the Earth. There is no dichotomy. It's a perceived dichotomy. And therefore, we need to give more people insight into what we see. And we cannot dismiss what they're experiencing. It's really up to us to give them a different understanding of what's going on right now and to share our enthusiasm for it.
Agreed.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you so much, Frank. always, your keynote was enlightening. It's incredible that this philosophy has endured into this new generation, and now we can share it with new space travelers. And I'm sure you'll be on standby to interview new folks as they come along. I'm sure you'll be interviewing the first Starship crew member in a few years, and the Artemis, MaryLiz, and the Artemis astronauts. We have so much fun, incredible things coming in our community and industry. We have these amazing missions coming up. People are returning to the moon. SpaceX is heading to Mars. Axiom is building infrastructure in orbit. A lot of exciting things happening. And we'd like to thank everyone who showed up today, all our speakers, our panelists, the audience. You guys are always incredible. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you to Cosmic Perspective and the Supercluster team and Tim Dodd and all of you. Dylan Taylor, thank you so much for always being a leader and helping keep these organizations working with each other and sort of leading that way. A personal thank you to MaryLiz. We have been collaborating for many years now.
Yeah, look how kind of crazy how this all evolved, isn't it? It started in your parents' garage and
parents' garage. MaryLiz and I working for fruits and bananas back then.
Wait, back then?
And no, we've come a long way. Bringing back John Kraus into this, watching him grow and become a superstar, and again, bringing it back to Jenny, the part of a new generation of storytellers and space communicators. We want people to come join us on this adventure, become a storyteller, create content, do whatever it is that you want to do. But you'll be part of a big space family, and I'm grateful to be a part of it.
Absolutely. And thank you, Robin. You're amazing. I so appreciate you and the Supercluster team. And I also want to thank our other co-sponsor, Multiverse Media, which is Dylan Taylor's initiative to basically get space philosophy out into the masses. And I'm just super grateful for all they're doing.
Let's shout out Will real quick. Hello, Will. Will was such a big part of behind the scenes, and Jamie and Eric. Thank you guys so much for your help this past couple of weeks.
And with that, I have to thank our volunteers. This was pretty last minute. They jumped in, they crushed it. Susan Ipchul, Mark Wagner, Daniel Fox, Inara Tabir, Trent Adams, Mike Simmons, Liam, Kennedy. I hope I didn't miss anybody. But we're so grateful for all of y'all's help and your energy here. And just want to say, there were a lot of questions that we couldn't get to. I apologize. But there is a way to follow Frank and to follow the rest of the panelists and us, which is all being dropped into the chat right now. And with that, I think that it's time for us to wrap up. I am going to share just a little video that Ryan, my partner at Cosmic Perspective, put together for all of you who are interested in Starship,
which is everyone. So,
ooh, it's coming, it's happening.
Shout out to Ryan. We miss you. I miss you, and I hope to see everyone down at Starbase very soon. And let's keep going.
Yeah. So here you go. That's it for us. We hope you enjoyed this, and we will absolutely see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
It has been an absolute honor to prepare you for this historic flight. Today, you are truly inspiring the world. We wish you a great mission, good luck, Godspeed, and enjoy the ride.